culture all over the world.
Bonsoir, ça a fait la Dominique. Déjà connaît.
We thanking you.
À souhaiter tout le monde qui a passé un bon petit week-end, messieurs, mesdames, ce week-end pas de côte à Dominique. Maman, pile événement tout partout, m'a dit, franchement, pile événement tout partout. Il y a Isidon à Gambé, il y a Isidon à Saint-Zouvet, petite souffrière, il y a Isidon à Wana, pile différents événements. Nous, quand disons spécial, bienvenue sur une spéciale émission pour le Sensier Creole. Là, nous avons un grand bonsoir pour tout le monde. Welcome to another very special edition of our Creole Heartbeat. We delve into part 1 of Calypso, the myths, the stories, the facts behind Calypso, the genre Calypso. And we had part 1, we had part 2. Presenter Gordon Henderson, ethnomusicologist, the godfather of Cadence, Calypso music, the creator of that particular genre, which really brought Dominica's name far and wide, as a matter of fact, to the four corners of the globe. And we will be delving into the last part. That's part 3. And we will be dealing with quite a bit of the distribution, the production, and distribution strategies, that sort of thing, marketing strategies. And we really do hope that you have a wonderful, let's say, 2 hours with us. Special guest in the studio already seated is Ian Jackson. Let's move across to Paris and say good evening to Gordon Henderson. Bonsoir, frère.
Well, bonsoir. Good evening.
Good
evening, and I can see Ian well seated as well. Good evening, my brother.
What's up, Ian Jackson?
Well, I'm cool. You know, I forgot it was 7 o'clock. I was by the Savannah at 6 o'clock. And I say, 6 o'clock is ZBS News, so it's 7 o'clock. So I went and do 1 or 2 other things, and I'm back. I'm ready to go.
You know? Absolutely. Yeah, and Gordon, I mean, once again, it's a tremendous pleasure. And quite a bit of information, quite a bit of debate all over the Caribbean since you really started this particular series.
Yes, indeed, because it coincided with the release of my single titled Calypso. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, I participated in a few Trinidadian-led radio shows. Mm-hmm. And, well, we may use the word debate, but sometimes I say that there's a lot of cognitive dissonance. Mm-hmm. Some people might say that this is a big phrase, but that is a phrase that many people in the Caribbean should be aware of because of our colonial past. And, well, psychologists and psychiatrists describe cognitive dissonance as a situation where we individuals, we grow up knowing things. Like the world is flat. We are taught these things. Mm-hmm. And one day, someone will come up with the idea, the world isn't flat. But we are convinced. And we refuse, despite what kind of evidence. So I meet people along the way. Well, fortunately, the academics agree with a lot of the stuff that we've discussed, that the Calypso genre in fact started in the Creole language because there's no other language that the enslaved Africans spoke. Years after having been brought across as captives, they never spoke Yoruba to themselves. They never spoke any other language. We know that in Trinidad they speak of Gros Jean as the first chantuelle that eventually became a Calypsonian. It wasn't Big John for good reason. It was Gros Jean.
Creole.
Yeah, and we discussed the fact that the first million-seller record, now we're moving fast in the chronology, was the Andrews Sisters, some white ladies who sang a song titled Rum and Coca-Cola. It sold 1 million records. And we found out, and many people, including Trinidadians, who were happy on radio programs that we did following our Creole Heartbeat series, that they didn't know that the original version of Rum and Coca-Cola was L'Année Passée, which is available on YouTube, and lots of other things that we discussed. So very good, because we all love Calypso. We all have our idea of what Calypso is. And when some of the misconceptions are dispelled, some of us have difficulty in accepting the truth.
You recently released the sound in sort of coinciding with our 2 previous editions. As a matter of fact, let's see if we can take a listen for our listeners, to our listeners.
Amis, avancez et prêtez l'oreille. C'est long, ça n'a pas dit qu'à dire. Remettez pas Dieu la Africain esclavisé, Coréen enchaîné, qu'acclamer la liberté. Moment de la vérité, à la colonie française, chantez, chantez, wow. Calypso is yours, my friend. Calypso is mine. Calypso is Caribbean. Sing it. Calypso is yours. Yours. Calypso is mine. Mine. Calypso is Caribbean. In English we say Calypso. En Creole, nous a dit Calypso. You say we want Caribbean, despite the failed federation. What a massive contradiction. Sapabo, down and right. We never hear it at all. Calypso began on Creole. The story is never told. Sapabo, down and right. At the time Trinidad was Spanish, hablaban español. Take a bow, take a bow, take a bow. Trinidad and Tobago. For what you've done to sweet Calypso. Take a bow, take a bow, take a bow. Trinidad and Tobago. For bringing steel band to the world. No stop and start. Culture doesn't work like that. No stop and start.
A history lesson and song as we say goodnight to King Bob. King Bob, welcome to the special program, part 3. How are you, my friend?
Mesdames et messieurs, bonsoir.
I love that.
Bonsoir, Mawarix. Bonsoir, Gordon.
Are you hearing him loud and clear, Gordon?
He seemed to be hearing us because I seen his lips moving in
But
response.
we don't hear him.
We can't hear you.
Okay, not sure what is.
Unmute your mic.
Oh no.
Okay,
The
right.
problem was mine. I had muted my mic.
Muted your mic. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Bonsoir, kaka de plus jeune qui dernière fois moi ouais man.
Who got ça?
Oui man, ah ouais ça.
I'll take the compliment.
So,
But
Bob,
even just before we continue, I was just thinking, and same thing, like just speaking aloud. Gordon, question: they listen to that particular song, seeing that you feature and you give a history lesson, Calypso, but it's a compa, basically.
Lipso.
Why?
Calypso.
Calypso. Why? There's not much
Very
of
simple.
yeah.
Continue.
No, I say no. Why didn't you probably delve into some of the calypso rhythms that we have? Basically it's like a compa, but you're actually talking about a storyline calypso. So I just wanted was it purposefully done like that? What was the reason?
It was purposefully done like that because I would
Okay.
like to erase the idea.
Okay.
Well, that engages only me.
All right.
That calypso is defined only by the rhythms and the patterns from 1910 to 1970. I wanted to remind forcefully, and this is where Dominica comes in mind. We, as a former French colony, the Creole language and the Creole sense of calypso, we brought it in the early days because it was inevitable. We could not have brought in any other thing. The little jazzy things that you're talking,
Right.
that came in when the Latin Venezuela, 7 miles away from Trinidad, when they brought that into what we had originally brought, and they improved it. I agree. From just 2 chords, and they improved it into progressions.
Questions, right?
But in the 70s, by accident, we brought back the 2 chord, and we brought back the Creole. And it was a result of that it went, because I continue calling all of that calypso, despite of the little names that we gave to the variations. And this is the one that went far and wide, that went to Japan, that went to South America, that went to the Indian Ocean, that returned to Africa.
Yeah.
And even another variation that came at the same time, soca. Up to now, soca hasn't been really to Africa in the way that Calypso has been.
Yes.
So these are the reasons. And we'll see recently, there is a guy from Haiti called Duet File.
yeah.
He brought compa, so it's the same philosophy, the Creole, to the Grammys, and not in a compa category, like some guys will have a Grammy in the reggae category. He has a real Grammy as foreign music or whatever they want to say, but it is not in a specific. So these are some of the reasons why I want to play the Creole card in Calypso, both linguistically and in the style.
Bob, I know you have several areas that you wanted to sort of touch base even before we go into part 3. What are your what sort of responses you got from the part 1 and part 2?
Well, for one, I can say generally the people are very happy about having that type of talk show. I was really surprised at the number of people who've been listening, who stay on, because Wadix is known for music, music, and then this time it's education, and the people have remained loyal to you. So I'm really happy about that. And people have raised a number of different areas that they want us to expound on, or things that they have captured in what Gordon has explained, and so on over the last two sessions of the show. But one of the things I that stick with me is the importance of the state to understand this aspect of culture. When we're talking, to me, like we're talking now, heritage. And I think Calypso is being treated like an outside child. To the point where even the best location or venue facility that we can have for Calypso, the administrators of Calypso would have difficulties getting in there. And I don't think they understand the importance of Calypso, that it will be there. It was there long before us. It will be there long after us. So we still have to let Calypso be. And that is something I've been grappling. I'm trying to understand why, and you see other genres are pretty comfortable, in the country, getting access to the very facility that we have issues getting access to. So I think this is something I needed to say that. It might seem controversial, but it's very important.
No, but it's important to record that, because we just heard from Gordon, Calypso is the mother. And the several variations, Kadas, Calypso, Zouk, Soca, and what have you, even Bouillon. And in Dominica, and like you just said a while ago, Kadas Calypso went even further than Calypso and Soca. Now, fortunately for us, it's a Dominican genre. And we have the World Creole Music Festival hosted by Dominicans in Dominica. And one of my biggest challenge is to get a rightful place for the same Kadas Calypso in the World Creole Music Festival. So there seems to be a lack of understanding of how important. And that's why these discussions are so relevant at this point in time, to sort of give a balance to Dominica. Didn't just become Dominica in 2025 or 2000. There's a whole history, and if you go way back, with everything else we are now enjoying stem from the same Calypso. And that's what Gordon is saying in this song. But we need to understand that. And when we understand that, and we even understand that Dominica was one of the first places for Calypso. So, I mean, if you understand that, if you know cultural heritage and heritage tourism, cultural tourism, then you will understand why it is so important to make sure that the world understands what belongs to you in the whole network of Calypso. Instead, we kind of, not giving it the relevance, the prominent push, the space, the time of the show itself. If you're not forceful, you may not get the prevalence in terms of videography, and the images may be shown across. You may just be getting the either early o'clock or sometime in the wee hours of the morning. But we have to understand that it goes deeper than just party and siwu. Here is it in the whole dimensions of the Calypso, which is the mother. We are fortunate to have created two genres, which belongs to us. And Kadas Calypso has gone further than any of the other genres. But yet still, in the homeland of Kadas Calypso, or the homeland where who made or created Kadas Calypso,
the cradle of Calypso,
is not represented. And I figure, just think of any other island in the world. Where else that would have happened? Just think of just closer to us, Barbados, Trinidad, Jamaica, even Antigua, even St. Lucia. We see every year their best are always on every year, and why we have an issue with having that as a staple, as something, and if you understand, and that's why I figure it's very important for us to do that, Why don't we have Calypso, which is the mother? Why don't we have Kadas Calypso, which is a variation? And we look for all others that are so far, like distant cousins.
Yeah.
And then who closer to us, we are kind of forgetting it. I'm not sure if you have any other points before we delve into part 3, Gordon. I'm not sure if Ian
Yes,
have
yes,
any.
yes. I want to say quickly on that.
What?
In my thesis for when I did my master's some years ago, I used music branding and ecotourism as part of my thesis. And in my studies, looking at some persons, they spoke heavily about a staged event. I mean, it is good that you have a program where you feature Calypso, where you feature Calypso, and also DBS has a program where they feature Calypso.
Yeah.
Now, the danger of that is that we are saying Calypso and Cadas has now become a stage event. Anytime a music has become a stage event, it comes like Bele, Mazouk, it comes seasonal for a time.
Yeah.
And that is already a wrong way to go. In other words, it should just be natural or policy of radio stations that you pay X percentage of Cadas on your radio station.
Agreed.
It shouldn't be a particular slot set aside for it. The main idea you put the slot aside is that
Shouldn't be
boy is gonna be this.
get to rise.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we have to look at that very closely. In Jamaica, for instance, they try and expand the reggae. They started with as the football team. They had the reggae boys. They were branded as reggae boys. I feel right now we're trying to talk about Booyah boys in terms of our Booyah music. And so on. And we never take the opportunity to make something academic out of it. I think recently Marcel Montano got a degree in something about soca music or Calypso in Trinidad. We have not brought it to that level. So when you speak about Calypso, me being a teacher, basically when I speak to my boys, and I remember years ago, Wadix yourself, and when I brought couple guys, I brought Jeff Joe there, and also Anthony Gossi, yourself was there. That's some years ago at the SMA to speak to the guys, to let them know about how CADA started and speak to them about those things, because I'm just one person, but it has to be something that has to be institutionalized, basically, and we have not done that. So programs like this, yes, it is whip up interest and so on, and people try and listen to it, and I've gotten a couple of good feedback on it also on the program, but we have to find out and raise some issues tonight as how we take it to that other level. We must bring those things to our school. There must be a subject called Calypso at schools. You must be able to go and get a university degree to understand it, so we can pervade the minds of the young people and they know they can actually aspire and study the art form. Sometime a few years ago, around 2 or 3 years ago, I was at I came in SMA in September early, and I saw guys gathering around the staff room and buying crests, and in the office buying crests and buying their ties and buying all kind of different things at SMA. And then I saw a lady couch in the corner, and as I came in there, I said, "Hey gentlemen, what's happening there? Do you know who's sitting down there?" And whatever. But there's all over the lady buying crests and buying all kind of stuff, and some paying school fees and so forth. I had to give them a lecture for 10 minutes. This is Ophelia. They don't know who's Ophelia. This is what we are facing. It's greater than that. They don't know who's Ophelia. And somebody, when I say, Dominic, say, oh, that is because they were completely blank.
I know.
True, it were 11-year-old students basically and 12-year-old students, but that is where we are failing. We are not using our universities, we are not using our schools, our places of learning and so forth, and having lectures and conversations.
And
technology
like that. Too.
Yeah,
because
technology.
They know Taylor Swift,
That's
exactly.
Exactly.
And they know PDD.
Oh yes. So that is where I
Sadly.
think, how do we brand that? How do we have that and put that out there for people? Because the main idea Gordon is having this 3-part series is out of a genuine concern, as a veteran, as a senior in the whole business, and it really aches, I'm sure, many Dominicans' heart. I mean, the deceased Fitzroy also spoke to me about that, and he said, "No, in the African countries, they still respect the Kada's music. What is wrong with us down here?" He always used to tell me that, and so on. And we don't have new bands. For instance, let me just give one example. The government, through the cultural division, could put an incentive for bands producing albums to do 2 songs on the albums and give them like an incentive, financial incentive. See, if we produce 2 Kada's music every year on that album, this is something that can move to another level. But you're not putting nothing in place to make the youths be interested and understand, well, there is something we need to preserve and keep it going. Of course, we'll talk more about that, but...
Absolutely. Gordon, I'm not sure if you have any comments on what was said so far.
Yes, in support of what Bob and Ian, they're both saying, I noticed, Mr. Ambassador, that you're speaking of the World Creole Music Festival and the inclusion of Calypso, the inclusion of Calypso, and you're right. But I think, as both Ian and Bob, they're saying, the issue with Calypso is a societal issue. However, even in Trinidad, the last time I went to do interviews with people, they're amazed that in Dominica, the Calypsonians could put themselves together. They took over the organization of the annual Calypso competition from what would have been institutionalized in a way that was not necessarily Calypsonians. They built what is probably the only Calypso house, and it's not a shack.
Yeah. Yes.
So this is commendable.
Yes.
And they did that in the history of our carnival celebrations. The Queen Show was the top thing.
Yeah.
Dennis Joseph wrote a song in protest when the Queen,
Queen
when she
stayed
was
in the Windsor Park.
in the Windsor Park and those kinds of things.
Yes.
And at one time, Calypso celebration, because of what the Calypsonians did collectively, was the biggest carnival show. And then for some reason, because we probably don't respect the hierarchy and the chronology of the way that Calypso is moving, we are starting to disrespect it, neglect it. So it is not only a question of the World Creole Music Festival, it's societal. Our society, and Ian is so right that if we don't enlighten, because I heard guys speaking about the three E's: educate, entertain, and enlighten. If we don't educate and enlighten, particularly the young ones, they will never recognize Ophelia.
Yeah. And surprisingly, and what also affects me, just a few miles away, almost everyone would adore her.
Boy.
Almost everyone would adore you, Gordon. Almost everyone adored Jeff Joseph, Anthony Gussie. And right here, it is like no big thing. They would adore the contributions that you guys made. They would have been seeing you on television, checking your videos. But here, we would be dealing with videos of other artists, other cultures, other genres, and then our own heroes, our own ancestors. We tend not to give at least the day or the light of day. So as it's not only societal, but it's a cultural, and it wasn't always like this. It wasn't always like this, and that is why the challenge is so difficult, because we used to.
You put a finger on it,
Yeah.
Put your finger on it.
Mm.
Because Bob mentioned Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Why do the kids know Taylor Swift? In Dominica, we are bombarded with good American television 24 hours a day. Now, I am a proponent of television. But if we don't see ourselves, there was a time in America Michael Jackson had to protest to get on MTV. So if you do not see Bob, you do not see Ophelia, you and Ian Jackson is not interviewed regularly as a songwriter. If you don't see, I keep saying in my little philosophical way, you cannot love what you don't know.
Sure.
So if you don't know something, how can you
love
love?
it,
How
yes.
can you promote? So we need local television. I know Creole Heartbeat has made efforts in establishing local television in addition to local radio, but we know that that costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned the institutions, the learning institutions. should be participating from a funding standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And we are in a country that is very polarized politically. So if I say that the government should give consideration into funding that, because we are losing all we have, because the young ones don't know. Somebody jump out and say, well, he take a side, you see, on this side.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yes.
I'm fed up with that.
yes, yes. This is so frustrating, Gordon.
Boy.
I mean, for me, it is
Yes, it is.
extremely
This is-
frustrating. I figure, and I am happy this is coming up even before we delve into our topic. I figure I am given an ambassadorship. And my role is to continue to educate, because Creole Heartbeat came along because there was a lack of education. It was obvious that we were not highlighting what we have, and we were not valuing the talents that we have, the stories, the challenges that our artists go through, the explanation of the various journeys, and to actually put ourselves in a global perspective. You know, I don't think we were taking stock of what was happening. Ian Jackson doing his stuff on
Newspaper.
which we hardly read. You know, I mean, it is just amazing why we had a culture of reading, and now we just don't read. You know, we just don't read. I speak to young people who hardly listen to radio, and they just don't read. And just this morning, I had a psychiatrist who told me social media, too much social media can give you mental disorder.
Yes.
You know, for real, for real. Because our children, I mean, it is good to have social media. It is also very good. Technology has brought us to where it is. But we used to read. I remember at the St. Mary's Academy, we would fight for the grandma. From Cuba, we would get. Imagine when we couldn't get Hardy Boys, we would read all the books of the girls.
Yes, of course. Nancy Jews.
Nancy
And
Jews
Mills
and
and
Mills and Boons. No, for real, we would read and read and read, and you would find guys at the library every afternoon reading and continuously reading, but we hardly read. I almost sure the newspapers don't have 1,500 rotation in a country with 70,000 people, which means not even 1,500 people read.
In fact, the son is thinking of going digital.
Digital.
Because nobody's really reading right
Reading, you see, and this is sad.
now. And the Chronicle also.
This is so sad. This is so sad. I remember we used to do research on, I mean, right now everything is on the computers, on your phone, but people used to have that love for reading encyclopedias. You would go and research. Google is there now at your fingertips, but the art, the skill, the commitment to read, the urge to get knowledge, and not just entertainment, because I must see the entertainment value of social media is being exploited more than the educational aspect. So as a teacher, Ian Jackson, I am almost sure you're challenged with things like this.
Oh yes. We're correcting papers right now, and all teachers are really balling at that situation. You know, and people don't analyze things, and as a result, people don't analyze anything. People just take things for wholesale, take it for granted, and that is why I think in our we spoke the last time, I mentioned that why I embrace all sorts of music, Gordon and Wadix and Bob. While I embrace all type of music, we have to appreciate our own. And I always had a question mark as to, because I saw it myself in my days in RSB when Booyah music was just coming up. I remember we had to play with some band, you know, in the early days, and I realized the band could not play because something was wrong with the drum machine. I cannot believe a music can be dependent on a drum machine, and I always had an issue with that. And that is what it is. So the technology has come to a full force, and I hear things that people are playing that people can't really play physically. It must be a machine. Nobody can play those things. You know what I'm saying? So that
boss,
you know,
Ian Jackson,
that's a problem.
Ian Jackson, the boss of Craig Nesty, I can call his name.
Yes.
Made me listen to a song. AI produced.
Right.
No musicians, no singers, but a complete song.
Right.
And he actually tested me and told me, Wadix, I mean, listen to this. And I listened to a complete song, singing, music, everything.
Right.
And he told me it's AI. no musicians in there, and just
Yeah.
and that is that is
yeah.
what's coming.
And
I was
how you
just
found the song? How you found the
Boy,
song?
it's authentic. It sounds real authentic Creole. I think it was a soca, kind of soca groove, nice little soca groove, and I find it was sounding good. So I tell him, well, I mean, who's that band? They tell me, Gasavadix, my friend AI, and we have to prepare for
that,
this.
Yeah.
It is something that is at our doorsteps, and we have to prepare for this. I'm not sure if you're ready, Gordon, to go into part 3, but then this is important to us to discuss.
Yes.
Because the today's generation is charged with the responsibility of carrying on the legacies, and if they are, like you said, they don't know. I mean, who are we to blame them if they don't know or if they are not exposed to the information? And that is why we are doing what we're doing. So we hope that it can reach and the various areas or corridors of where young people can actually view, go back and look and do some research. And maybe the onus is on teachers now to get students involved in outside of the regular maths, English, geography, and start to get more conscious about what's around them. So I'm not sure if you're ready, Gordon.
One thing I'd like to just add before Gordon comes in, just button, is that one thing I'm sure, based on what we've seen in the last 30 years, that this is not going to remain the same. It's going to change, and it's going to change really, really soon. The only thing we don't know is if it's going to change for the better or for the worse.
Yeah. And this is frightening, Bob. This is frightening.
Yeah.
And the reason why it is frightening is we are seeing the prevalence, and I could not help but actually asking the psychiatrist this morning of the degradation of our society and our morals and our values.
Yeah.
Now, when you reach to that level as a society, you gravitate to lots of profanities, negatives, and we forget this center. If you train a child in the way he should go, that when he's old enough, he should not depart from it. And if you feed a child with garbage, what you expect? Or if you feed a child with excess profanity, what you expect? If everything that used to be important to us is now nothing, what you expect? And that's what we are faced with. Now, the sad part of it is we do not want to discuss it. Because it is like a norm. My brother, if you curse before, an elderly would slap you, would hit you, and when you go, you still get some blows. But now you have cursing song.
Yeah.
You have, and it's no problem.
Yeah.
It is absolutely no problem. 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old now are now computer savvy, and they can be exposed to this. And that is just what we have. And guys feel no problem to produce and release, and they are even subsidized in producing that level. And who wants to produce? I remember an artist, I don't want to call the name, saying, why should I have to produce so many good songs to teach, to educate? And those that are doing the fast, according to Ian Jackson, the internet stuff, are those that are getting the necessary support. Yeah. So somewhere along the line, it's a societal, it's a new culture we're creating in a subconscious kind of way that we are living for our young people. We are not going to be there all the time to try and mitigate. And they're going to be exposed to that, and that is all they will know. And then what happens to the society then if we don't try to reverse or at least mitigate what's going on? Yes, Gordon?
Yeah. Well, the conversation is so enlightening that we might go all night.
I know. I know.
All that. But anyway, probably it might be necessary at some point to have a program, maybe a short program, Creole Heartbeat, on AI, because this is the big debate all over the world in copyright, circles, and so on. And I would just throw in one little thing. If we can start looking at AI in general, not in music alone, as a tool, an inevitable tool, I don't think anybody's going to take it out or ban it. rather than an accomplishment.
Yeah.
And if we use it as a tool, it will take humanity
Mm.
further.
Yeah, you're right.
But if we just take it as an accomplishment, it will become what
Our
we and
daily
I have
lives, it
to
will become
say.
our daily lives. We will start to be
But it can
dependent
become
on
our
it.
daily lives, you know.
Mhm.
But you remember Ian Jackson said that he was amazed to see that the drum machine had replaced the drummer.
Yeah.
And if we make artificial intelligence replace our brains, that's where the danger
Problem,
lies.
yes, 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 yes.
But if we use it as a tool,
Tool.
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
you must teach the children how to use it as a tool,
Yeah.
and not to be lazy and just copy and paste
Yeah.
Yeah.
what
Yep, yep.
technology offers you a tool.
Yeah.
Let's go further with it.
Yeah.
AI should be taught in schools in Dominica right now,
Yeah. I
at
agree.
every level,
I agree.
Correct.
including music.
I agree.
Correct. Well, we are learning of the removal of
Otherwise,
the proposal to
Go
remove
ahead.
music, but that I don't want to talk about that because I don't think I personally have enough clarity on that as yet. The removal of music from the school curriculum. I think probably whoever is thinking of that must be thinking of some other more effective way to get music across. But the entire removal of it does not make any sense to me. So I don't want to talk about that until we have some kind of engaged session with the powers that
Discussion.
be. Yeah.
But for years, I've been saying, rather than music as a course in school, we should introduce music appreciation,
Yes.
which is a developed course in Australia, in France, in America, because we like American and its methods. Music appreciation, because I've seen kids that can read, they know notation and all those kinds of things, and they don't even know the difference between a saxophone and a trumpet.
Yeah.
So music appreciation, in my opinion, is what should be introduced in primary schools before
Yeah.
music.
Yeah. But we are leaving out one aspect in all the discussion. I mean, as you say, it goes on, the spiritual aspect.
Yes.
I mean, nothing will happen in the world in terms of the positive approach to music and so on without the spiritual aspect. We have to remember, guys, that the devil as we know him in the Bible revealed, he was Lucifer, son of the morning star, and he is a musician. Many of us don't know that the devil is a great musician in heaven before he is cast down. And he knows how to use the tool of music. And that's what's happening now, you know. He knows how to use music as a tool to get the young people. For instance, psychologists and people are involved in therapy. They use music, they can calm you.
Yeah.
They can make you be very aggressive. I mean, we run carnival every year. And so when the band gets too hot, they just cool down the tempo just to make everybody pacify themselves. So music is a very powerful and can be a very dangerous tool. Because a politician might say something all the time and you may not hear what he say. Let a guy who's popular puts in a song and you remember it. So we cannot use music just as a flippant thing. It's a very serious thing. It has spiritual components to it and physical, yes, and all that kind of stuff. But I would rather, no matter what AI does, I always tell my students, no matter what AI does, no matter what the drum machine does, no matter what happens. For instance, when a guy go in a studio, he can take a particular note and he will use what you use, auto-tune and so forth. When I come to a show and I pay my $50, I want to see the man sing it. I want to see the guy plays guitar. So don't bring no AI for me. I want to see the human element. And we have to ensure the human element is involved. The skill
And
of the individual. Yes, maintains. And we have to make our people know this is very important. And I really think we are going through a phase, guys. I think it's a long phase, but I think music is going to come back. And people are going to demand music as how it was before.
Of course.
I really think so.
Yes, Gordon, are you ready for part 3? I have to try to stay focused.
Yes.
Okay, because we said that this time we would discuss industry,
Yes.
Yeah.
and we kind of broke it down into areas like production, distribution, the very important music publishing,
Publishing.
because it is said that this is the most lucrative part of live performances, promotion and that sort of thing. But I would like to begin so we can have participation and input, uh, because this is one of the questions that I receive um, from people over the last two episodes. Is people are very curious about knowing, sometimes for themselves, because they are young musicians, about the revenue streams that you can get out of music as a professional. They
Yeah.
want to know because people always talk about millions. They never speak about millions when people go out to become lawyers, accountants. I hesitated to say politicians. Uh, different professions, people expect you to earn a decent living. So I would like us to discuss what are the revenue streams that
Yeah.
a Dominican music practitioner can expect. What is the average? Let us use America as a benchmark
Mm-hmm.
and do some comparisons.
Yeah.
Now, some may say you cannot compare Dominica with America. Yes, you can, because if Rihanna had that school of thought, she would not be where she is. If those guys like Buju and Vibes Cartel and these guys, after having spent a decade or less or more in jail,
Can demand a
and
million.
yeah, we could. So today, the same technology can be used to reach the world as a market, the
Yeah.
global market. So we can compare. So the revenue streams, I kind of listed a number of revenue streams. What are the challenges that we could have operating either from Dominica, despite the internet, or with a Dominican idiom like bouillon or Calypso, or what we call Calypso?
Yeah.
What can we generate in terms of? I will run through them and then we will try to discuss them one by one.
Yeah.
Live performances and other types of gigs, um, music sales. So we know that music sales that falls under distribution, it's not happening in the same way that it was done, say, 2 decades ago, where people bought, where I would see Chubby with a bag of CDs and selling them as he walks through Roseau. I don't think that will happen in a hurry again. So we're more or less digital versus, if you want, physical in terms of sales. How this digital sales work, because people talk about million views and so on. How much money do you really generate? A lot of the young musicians ask me about that, and we can discuss it, and they might be enlightened. Um, so that falls under the category of streaming royalties. How does that work? Now, I put down music licenses and maybe synchronization. We're not too much in it. I've had the honor of doing that maybe about 3 or 4 times alone in my entire career. Um, Publishing royalties. that is a topic I think that we should dwell on because it involves copyright. Merchandise sales, we do it in our way. Teaching and instruction, because I know that both Bob and of course Ian mentioned teaching,
Yeah.
but how do we monetize it?
Yeah.
And what kind of assistance and what kind of structures? Um, I noted a lot of talk about crowdfunding. I personally am not a big fan of it, but you cannot ignore it because it exists.
Mhm.
So I try to get some up to date data on the overall median income of an American musician. And I got as the latest data that is median, $53,000 a year.
Hmm.
What do you guys, what do you think? What do you have to say? Because a musician, well, I said median, we are not talking about a freelance musician that might almost charge $53,000 for a
One day.
session
Mhm.
because of his name and all that.
Mhm.
But the guy who has a house and who's paid his mortgage, he has a car and a regular job, probably playing at a club or something across the United States, $53,000. Would that satisfy? I don't know if you can see it as currency exchange of 53,000 EC dollars. Will a young Dominican, knowing that, would he want to enter music as a profession?
That's
Bob, you want to say that?
debatable. That's
That's
debatable.
debatable. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
debatable.
yeah.
What happens overall or generally now? Songs are released. Where songs are released, I mean on social media in particular, those days for Carnival most times, but apart from Carnival, most songs are released in Dominica on social media. And these sounds evoke live performances. So most of the artists, they make their major earnings via live performances.
Right.
Some may be registered with various mediums, streaming mediums. Some may be registered with copyright entities, but the majority of the Dominican musician is their live performance. They depend on live performance for most of their revenue. And
His volume.
I mean while we are enjoying the heightened debate on bouillon, while the bouillon music is infiltrating according to the bouillon artists hitting the world. They are performing very regularly. I view some of their itinerary and they have been performing. So the majority may not be earning much on the streaming platforms, but they are performing regularly enough to survive.
Yeah.
I am aware of a few that I interviewed that have built houses. A few that have built houses, but they have been around over 20 years.
Yeah.
And that's the system which happens now. And I even noticed throughout the Caribbean, most of the guys are more dependent now on performance.
Yeah.
So they may have it free on various platforms so that it can be rotated on social media, and they depend heavily on performance.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure if
Yeah, I want to say that because I mean things have gotten, honestly and sadly, things have gotten worse here in our country as far as the music is concerned. But I remember And Bob might remember also there was a short time I spent used to do like a gigs with Bob, you know, in terms of Rough and Ready in the heyday. And I was transitioning between jobs, from working one place before I began to teach. I'm now teaching for 24 years. And during that time, I was unemployed, and I basically took my music very seriously with my Phase 5 steel pan. I played on the boats when they came, the tourist boats and so on. And I cannot remember, I live kind of comfortable, during those times. I cannot see myself doing that now. It's a real struggle to survive, even playing music in Dominica. But I know countries like St. Lucia who have friends in, guys that play, they have 3-4 gigs a week, St. Martin, at hotels, and they survive comfortably. So I want to agree with Badix that basically the musicians in the Caribbean, basically at large, Trinidad, to have some friends in Trinidad, they make their money by actually playing music and live performances at hotels, guest houses, and now and then the odd gig will come about where they play for festivals, and so they basically survive, or the users hired musicians in studios to do different things, and they survive like that. But the infrastructure has to be set up. Dominica does not have that infrastructure of hotels and nightlife and things happening to engage a musician to keep on, to make him, be profitable in terms of what he's doing. So the fee of $53,000 is almost like almost any other profession in Dominica, I would say. A teacher, a qualified teacher, a banker, or so on. That is what they would really earn in a Dominican society. So I think most young people that are musicians, if they can earn that, I think they would be kind of comfortable knowing what's happening really in the region. So I think they would be comfortable in that respect. But the royalties issue, I'm more dependent on Gordon and probably even Bob to even tell me more about that, because I understand you have to have a lot of streaming being done to even earn 1 cent. So that might be a good area you might want to educate me on. But I know I went for actually physically playing at hotels and clubs and so in Dominica. I used to play at Fort Young with the house band at a certain time, and we played every Friday, and 1 or 2 other gigs came about and we played and so on. So this, I didn't really feel the transition. For 7 months I did that. And I know there are other musicians who did it before me. I mean, guys like Bob and the other guys were doing, Cornell and those guys were doing stuff. And I think at that time they were surviving comfortably. At that time, I'm not sure the same obtains now. So that's my input in that respect.
Well, one of the things I would like to add to that is, the thing is, there are different types of musicians. There are different types of professionals. Some engage themselves in different things. Like, I really made a living out of music more because I went into the tourist business like Jackson did. And during the tourist season, I do quite a few gigs. They're very small gigs, but they're frequent. I play for the tourists when they're arriving, upon arrival and stuff, give them welcoming music and so on. Sometimes I do that like 3-4 times a week and so on, but during the tourist season, which is kind of now closed. So I've been doing that for many years. People wonder how am I able to just play music alone. And then during summer, I do a little traveling, we go to North America and do stuff and so on. Then this season opens again in November. We start doing those gigs again. And then in December, I'll travel again with my band to go do stuff in North America for the Christmas season, because we have this very good Christmas album, obviously. So for me, I am, fortunately I have that, but a gig musician, one who is not recording or anything, the whole thing of publishing and all that stuff is not of interest to him, sadly, and he just has to do gigs. So I'm doing both. I'm doing the gigs, and I'm also doing the depending on my royalties as well to come in. Well, as soon as the royalty system in the Caribbean fixes up itself. But that's where I'm positioned. And I really hope that we would have more opportunities, probably because back then there was more nightlife in Dominica. There were more clubs and so on. So guys like Fred Nicholas and Julie Mate, you'd catch them at Fort Young, you'd catch them at a couple different places and so on the island doing gigs. This thing is still happening, but not as frequently. The vibe is not as vibrant as it used to be, and we're hoping that it will come back with a little, maybe the tourist industry could, become more of we have more stay over tourists instead of just those who just visit. They come on the boat for the day and so
but a lot of what happens to Bob is there used to be private quite a bit of private promoters.
Oh yes.
With clubs and discos all over.
Yeah.
But those days is different.
Yeah.
Most of the events are now handled by the various parliamentary representatives. So that sort of kind of
There's also
eliminate.
Ross. I remember we played there.
So that sort of
once.
eliminate a lot of the private bar owners, discotheque owners that would normally utilize, let's say, the various feasts for some level of income, so you could contact various bands or various DJs and do that sort of thing. But now, if you have a major jam for everyone in a festival style, free nights, it eliminates that private promoter from some level of earning, and that is where a lot of them sort of fell out. So it's going to be very difficult for them to come back based on how you're going to get your returns. When there's a free jam on the savannah and then you have a club where you charge $5 or $10 and make your earnings. There are hardly any clubs in Dominica. Hardly any clubs in. I
can't even think of one actually.
There's hardly, this is it is sad, but that's reality.
Yeah.
There's no club. If in case you want to dress.
Oh no!
And go to some function
and dance to some
nice music. No. If you want to be free up and exercise and 140, 150, 160 for the night, the entire night, and you may sweat for several hours and you may have to lift at 6 o'clock in the morning, yes, you may have that level of entertainment. But if you're looking for more easier, cooler, and you want to dress, you want to celebrate your birthday or anniversary, it may be difficult. It may be difficult. For me, I have to travel.
No, it's sad, yes.
And it is very good that I have the French Antilles to travel to celebrate any special occasion. But it's sad, but we used to have that in abundance. And you would know Ian Jackson, RSB, Rough and Ready would play at several other clubs and club dances. I mean, we played those dances. Dances are over.
Yeah, dances are over.
Dances are over. Is
Prances now.
It's prances, and it is. It's for real, and we have to face it. We have to face reality. Yes, people may say it have its advantages, but then it has eliminated the private business owner of a club, and it has eliminated the art of dancing. Actually, you can hardly get a man to dance with a woman face to face.
Yes.
That has been almost eliminated.
Yes.
So the romance in dancing has almost been eliminated.
Yeah.
You have to have your posterior, and when I describe it carnival time, people, get frantic, but then
but that's
the woman.
I wrote a song on that, what it
Which one?
And that song that didn't get played that much at all. It was Put a Little Love in the Bouillon.
Oh yes, I remember.
Yeah.
With a kind of groovy, touch. Yes. I remember. But then that has been the generation that's here now do not know the art of dancing, and I refer to dancing, not prancing or your posterior to And it is sad for a Creole country, and God would know what's happening in our neighbors where dancing is so prevalent that even in a big savannah, even when some of the French people come to Dominica for the festival, they dance,
They
actually dance, while we prance. While we prance, they dance.
They dancing cheek to cheek,
Cheek to cheek, and they dance, but then for some reason we are losing some of those sentiments, and
because one of the things, Wadix, our music doesn't cater for it at all. Our music is too festive,
one dimensional, carnival.
I remember during the carnival season, I was helping one of the young bouillon artists with a song, and when we went to the guy who makes the beats, he said, remember, the song was about 1:30. I mean, a young child, trying to get her to sing, and stay in time and so on. I can't give her something too fast. The melody, the groove has to be there. But the guy told me, remember, the bouillon is 150 and 160, He said, Bob, we're not doing bouillon yet. The bouillon is 150 and 160. And I was like, really? So if it's slower than 150 and 160, it's not bouillon. And I refuse to believe that a genre of music has to be identified by the BPM, the tempo.
Yes.
That doesn't make sense. Why isn't it diverse? Why can't it be 160? If it wants to be 180, that's okay. But it can be a nice 120 too.
No, but while that is
we
going
can take
on,
people, we can enjoy that kind of music
while
in
this
the
is-
bedroom. We
while
can
the-
enjoy that type of music at a birthday session. You know,
In church.
while this is going on now, Bob, Zouk used to be Zouk Shiwe
yeah.
of the Kassav's faster
Yeah.
type of. No, they had the different dimensions, but it has gone strictly Zouk love.
Right.
Compa used to be more of the swing bougie. It has gone to a lot of love.
Yeah.
Latino from salsa merengue, it has gone to bachata. The disco days has now gone to slow R&B, you know.
Yeah.
So even the power soca is now not as prevalent as before. Quite a bit of
Yes.
groovy soca.
Yes.
Is if you come before you come to a jam with Marshall, you'd get slow, you'd get fast,
Yeah.
you'd get slow. But then if you come to a jam in Dominica, you
Yeah,
have
it's
to.
opposite.
The slow is when everybody getting their self ready outside with their beverages,
Yeah.
and they will not come inside on anything
so,
slow.
so, Alex, do you think is something that's wrong with us?
But something is wrong.
Whilst
with us.
we,
course,
whilst we
something's
are
wrong.
there
Something is wrong
emulating
with
Trinidad
us.
and stuff, right?
Something is wrong with
And
us,
the
man.
most popular song from Trinidad right now is about 120, 125.
Yes, a groovy
Take
soca.
it easy,
a
I gon' do
groovy
the
soca.
work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most popular song coming out of Trinidad,
Yeah.
and I'm like, but I think there might be God, and there might be an answer to that. You know, I think talent is the answer there. If these guys do not have the talent to handle
Right.
melodies,
Wonderful.
to handle keys,
Good point.
they will stay away from it. I leave that there.
Because
Now,
that song
now
you
you're
talk about.
you're so right.
But that, to me, that's the answer.
That's the
right
answer.
there.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Because at 161, whatever,
What else can
Yeah.
you do?
You can
there's
chant.
No possibility
For you to sing.
for
Yes, for singing.
Melody.
Construction.
and harmony.
Yes,
because
yes.
our kind of song for 4/2/2 rhythm, it would have to have a beat,
Yeah.
it would have to have melody
Mm-hmm.
and harmony.
Right.
Now at 160, there isn't much space for harmony, for the non-musicians or the chords.
Yes.
So how many chords can you put at that speed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And the melody itself, since it's more chanting than singing, then no melody.
Right.
But there's an important thing that we probably overlook, is that our music, our very popular music today, bouillon, is carnival music.
Right.
Yes.
And I noticed that the guys are slowly doing almost like what Jamaica did with their reggae.
Mm-hmm.
They are introducing foreign songs with melody
Ah.
Yes.
on the bouillon beat.
Yes.
And they call it Bouillon Love.
Well, that's what they call
They
it.
can call it whatever they want.
call it
But I
bouillon
know
love,
that
yeah.
you are a fan of
Okay.
Zouk Shire and Zouk Love. and
Yeah.
To me, it's faster, moderate, or slower.
Yeah.
No matter what name you give it.
Yeah.
You know?
But here it is. That's a copyright issue also. I mean,
Yep.
that's a
I have
copyright
been
under-
wondering.
We will deal with
I have
that.
been wondering. I've been wondering.
Copyright.
Because when I heard the Celine Dion
Yeah.
remix,
Right?
I tend to wonder, if there isn't infringements.
Of course there is.
Of course
The
there's
sequencing, if
infringement.
there's permission.
Yes. But let us deal with the infringements when
After
we get to
to
the publishing.
publishing.
All right.
copyright.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Right now, we're talking about
Rhythm, beat.
how
Construction.
the trend
Mhm.
Yeah.
can become popular. Because earlier this year, we had a bouillon song with an interesting melody, and there was a dispute
Yeah.
Mhm.
with that one.
Yeah.
So that trend could develop and improve bouillon irrespective of the tempo of the beat.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the guys are working in that direction.
But then we have seen quite a bit since that particular sound
Yes.
in that vein.
Yes.
They have experimented quite a bit in that vein, which is a plus. Because they have kind of departed slowly from the profanity.
Yeah, I
the
agree.
profanity.
The one
and-
body part music.
Yes, and
Yes,
the body
yes.
parts. And they are now into the more love.
Yes.
And it has been more effective. You know, it has been more effective in that sort of more palatable. More
Good.
people can relate to it because
So it's work in progress.
yes, but then I'm also amazed that if one hit sound made over 6 million views with a team of artists, 3 artists in particular, and at least another trial at maybe to get 1 million views, something the whole chemistry broke down right after, you know. And this is concerning. I know musicians come and musicians go and musicians break up, and that's a whole phenomenon by itself. But then I was really looking forward to, let's say, another song from, let's say, the trio to really see, you know, if that is a formula for gold. But then apparently they are not together. But I heard one of the artists mentioning that he's going to release like maybe a dozen songs for the summer. You know.
Yeah.
So something is happening.
But as Bob said, I think it's Bob who said it depends on the talent.
Yes.
It's not a matter of just putting a melody.
Yeah.
You need to put a melody that is attractive,
Mm-hmm.
because that song that had this controversy thing in Trinidad and so on, I can remember discussing with people, the melody was so attractive that some people thought it existed before. You know, when you hear a melody and you accept it immediately.
Yeah.
So that is the kind of melody that makes a hit.
Yeah.
We have a lot of artists with hundreds of songs, and they are excellent artists, good singers in particular, but they've never had a hit.
Yeah.
So making a hit, having that quality, that talent is something else. But we have a number of points to discuss.
Yeah, go ahead.
So-
Yeah.
And Wadix mentioned 6 million views.
Yes.
Well, that is the data that I have been receiving.
Well, so in that
No, I
respect,
think that is accurate, you know.
yeah.
It's accurate.
In respect of that, Gordon, I want you to ask you, what does that translate to financially on the platforms?
That for sure. That for sure.
So this is what
Has
this is
given-
When we
what
come
we
to
need
publishing, I
discuss.
suppose.
Well, not public, but I know for sure that has given them
not publishing.
live performance and engagements. You know, for sure, it has really brought
Because it seems that the world, especially here in Dominica, we are caught up with hits.
No, but then that
HITS,
particular
I
song,
want to know,
song brought quite a bit of revenue for the team.
Okay.
And possibly if it was coherent, if all of them were doing stuff together, possibly it would still be doing things differently. But then
So the point,
they made money through live performances. They made their
Yeah,
name
right.
out there with the song. The song is still playing, by the way.
Yeah.
There's last week some guy from Madagascar.
but it should play for the next 50 years.
Yes.
Yeah, man, it will
Right.
play.
Like Stand By Me.
Yes.
Any hit.
But that's
Right.
this
Any hit
particular
will still reach
songs
6
like
million
this,
people.
songs
But
like
let us not
this,
drift from
songs like this
our-
will
our
continue
thing.
to play.
If
based
you
on the
make
type of
6
song.
million views, you establish the fact that it will translate into live
Performances, yes.
Right.
Because we spoke that live performances is probably the main
Yeah.
Most
revenue
lucrative, yes.
stream
Stream, yeah.
for musicians today.
In Dominica, we're Caribbean
So
musicians.
In the world.
You think throughout the world?
Well, yeah, there are a lot of musicians all over the place that it's live performances. And as I said, there are a greater number of musicians who just play music and not record, you know.
Yeah.
So it's on their shows, the festivals that they go to back up artists. Sometimes
Yeah,
and so on.
yeah. Live
So
performances.
that is one category of musicians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about those that are getting views,
Yeah. Producing music.
and it's important because Ian Jackson asked a question about the streaming royalties, and it's important that our young and old understand 6 million views in terms of royalties may not represent more than a few $100 of legal royalties. But as Wadix just pointed out,
Yeah.
when you have all these views, it
opens you to,
translates into demand
Right.
On
for
Popularity.
live
live
performances,
all
yes.
over the world.
Yes.
Because since the views are not seen locally,
Locally,
but they are viewed globally,
Yeah.
so that gives you a very large platform
Yes.
for working thing. Now, why 6 million views will translate into just a few dollars in
Stream.
royalties or pay? Many people, when these Apple and Spotify, Amazon, and these people came out, they started with, in fact, selling songs usually at 99 cents. You all remember that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah. But today, that's not how it works.
No.
Most of these people, they get memberships, so you pay. I don't know how much, because I'm not.
You subscribe.
I am a part of it for other reasons. Like I am a member, for example, of Amazon, because I order stuff and so on, and I want it fast, so I get Prime and I get music in addition. But there are people who pay a subscription on Apple, and they get everything that is placed on Apple.
Yes.
So, which means that they do not purchase a song.
All right.
And then Apple will manage it in the whole world of songs, the millions of songs, and they will give you a 0.0000 what 2%
Per play.
per play.
Yeah.
So 6 million views might not represent, it's not 6 million sales,
Yeah.
and
Right.
it might represent 0.002 in the whole pool of the Amazon Music or Sony Music.
For instance, you need 80 plays to get $1 on Apple.
80 plays.
You know.
Yeah.
And views may not be plays.
There you go.
well, there's a little confusion. We can call it views, or we can call it
Plays.
plays, because
Plays, yeah.
views is if you make a. We prefer the terminology of views because to maximize your presence, you will want to make a music video, and people
Yeah.
want to
Some
view.
kind of visual, yes.
Will say it, you know.
Yeah.
But some people might be in their cars and they want to hear,
Yeah.
and you'll come down as a view, but in fact,
It's a play.
Sometimes it's
a
just
play.
one image of yourself there, and it's if they go to that
Yeah.
that plays, and then it's
Yeah.
a view.
It's a view, yeah.
Well, I evoke that response from you, Gordon, because there seems to be a feeling, especially among our young people, that when they talk, and as a school teacher could tell you when first they were, boy, that get 500 views already, or that get 1,000 views, or 6,000 views. It's almost like when they're saying that, it's almost like $6,000 they have in their hand already.
Yes,
Yes. And we must, this program must make people know that thing about views and everything else, because what I fear is that a lot of our young people may have a misconception that when people are always what they call liking your videos or liking your songs and so forth, you are becoming rich, because very likely those guys are now singing and doing those booyah in their late 20s, in their 30s. When they reach 40s and when they reach 50s, they may say, wait a while now, I can build my house, I can do that. What about all the popularity I enjoyed at that time? So they have to understand that it's more than that as far as the music is concerned. And this is Fitzgerald Williams, when I do a book in his honor, and he always told me that he feels, and I'm sure you can say the same, Ophelia also, who taught me at school, tells me that most of her money she made when there was no views and likes, contributed to her livelihood today, and she lives comfortable. You, Gordon, I'm sure you have heard you say the same thing. Fitzroy will tell me the same thing. Can our young people know, if all those views and likes, tomorrow, like you say, I live comfortably? And that is what I'm trying to say.
We have to teach them now
what to do,
how to maximize and monetize the 6 million views.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the 6 million views is not enough. That is what you need.
Right.
But do we have the structures to maximize? Now there are few people doing bookings. One young lady comes to mind,
Naomi.
and she works with probably four or five, because you cannot saturate the market, artists with views, with the reputation of exciting the crowd, and can sell them, probably undersell them, but because of the currency exchange
Yes.
being undersold in Martinique,
It's okay.
Guadeloupe,
It's okay. When you
it's great
convert,
for here.
when
You
you
build your
convert,
house here easily.
when you convert the
Just-
3-1.
Yeah. I just like the Jamaicans.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I'm hearing Jamaicans charging over $1 million US to
For-
do one appearance at a festival.
Yeah.
But within the last 30 years or so, that wasn't the case.
I know.
You would give them the 10,000, 20,000, whatever was at the time. And when they went to Jamaica, I don't know how many million they had with that.
No, but
You
it,
know?
it appears now that you commit a crime, you go to jail, and all of a sudden your value.
Skyrocket.
Value-
I'm not encouraged. Don't go to jail, please.
No, but I mean, let us deal with the reality of the last two, and they have a catalog of music. They have a catalog of hits. Nothing to complain about their repertoire and number one hits. But then prior to they being incarcerated, they would not have commanded
That kind of cash.
even if they have the repertoire, even if they have the catalog of music.
Yeah, same
But
repertoire.
then, the same repertoire.
Same catalog, yeah.
And it's even more dangerous. They can't perform as they used to because of limitations, of health limitations, but yet still because of their demand,
Yeah.
they are now asking for EC
4
million EC dollars. I mean, this is what this is reality. This is reality.
The bad boy image sells. That's what's
So-
facing the world. Bad boy image sells.
Something
Okay, let us see if we can take a call. Good evening to you, Creole Heartbeat, Gordon Henderson, also Ian Jackson and Daryl Bob. Good evening to you.
Mr. Daryl Bob, good evening to you.
Good evening, sir.
I'm a listener from Maranatha Square, and the radio does go off, and I don't hear anything from you all anymore. So check it out for me, please.
The radio is off.
Yes, it just completely cut off
Okay, I will get in touch with the
Oh,
technician.
Yes.
in Maranatha Square.
In Maranatha Square, that is
Where is
in
that?
Pishley. That's Pishley area.
Yeah, I'm a constant listener every day.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
We're going to address that right
Big
away.
Up, big up to you all, and big up Prince Wadix for me, please.
Thank you
God
very
bless.
much,
He
sir.
can hear you. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Okay, so I will get in touch with my technician to make sure that. By the way, you could call and contribute if you have been listening and you're intrigued and have a few questions that you may want to ask to Gordon or Ian Jackson or even Bob, or make a suggestion or want to contribute to the program here tonight. So yeah, Gordon, what has happened now with our Dominica system is the views has been translated to performances, live performances. The demand in the various carnivals are now out there, so most of the artists with the major views are now been getting gigs, several gigs at the Atlanta Carnival, Miami Carnival, and that sort of thing, which is good. But on the aspect of Dominica and the laws pertaining to music, where your song is played on various mediums, and then you would expect, based on how many plays on the local medium, if the local medium are registered, you would expect something. For instance, your song becomes a hit in Dominica. Your song becomes a hit in Dominica. Right now as we speak, in Dominica, it doesn't translate to immediate money for you. Gordon, Bob, And you can even take the recent Calypso season. Songs were very popular.
Yeah.
But are you and me, Gordon?
Yeah, I'm hearing. Can you hear me? as
Yes,
well?
yeah, loud and
yeah.
clear. A song becomes very
Yeah,
popular in Dominican just because there is this structure in place. We know there is this structure in place. It is played all over. The sound is played on all the various mediums. But yet still that particular artist may not earn revenue from the amount of plays.
Yeah, but I think what we have to make clear here that getting millions of views is great, but it's not an end all result. It is a tool. Well, first of all, we have to make sure that whoever is your, let's say, for whatever better word, distributor, YouTube or whatever, because there are a whole load of different platforms. They have their different systems of paying, and one might be paying better than the other. Okay? But you are not going, because since everybody wants to be building houses, you are not going to be building houses from this. This is going to assist you into getting gigs, live performances, and you have to do the necessary work. That doesn't mean because you have 6 million views that you have to stay home. You have to have a booking agent. There's other work that has to be done so you can monetize your 6 million views. I think we can move into the area of music publishing, because all of that, it moves into it. Now, how many, because we should dwell on bouillon, because bouillon is the
in thing.
The expression. Most of the live performances that we see going around, how many of them do you know work with music publishers? Or do they know anything about music publishing?
I'm not quite sure, but based on the registration of Signal Band songs, I suspect Shelly.
Yeah, Shelly is involved.
Because most of the songs are Shelly and Signal Band.
But who is the publisher?
Well, I'm not sure. That's what I'm saying. But then based on, normally you see a sound Signal Band, and whether it's Shelly singing or whoever singing, but now you see in those days that all of Signal songs are Shelly and Signal Band. So there's a feeling
But
that
as to how it's registered, we don't know.
yes, that is what we don't know. But then we just have that feeling. I have that feeling.
When it's released, obviously you want to say who the artist is,
Yeah.
and the artist is Shelly and Signal Band.
Yes.
But that's how it's registered. But another thing, in response to what Wadix was saying in terms of songs playing so much during the season, and then you hear artists saying that they don't get anything. The first thing is the artist has to register his song, He has to register his song with a society. Then the other thing is the radio station that's playing the song has to have a license, has to have a connection with that society to pay something every quarterly or whatever their cycle is. And also not only the radio stations but the venues, and sometimes you may walk into Roseau there and you hear your music playing in a store. Also, all of these places, all of these businesses, these outlets, they are performing your music for the public for some good reason, to attract people to their business, and they are responsible for acquiring licenses that eventually will transcend into the artist receiving something for his music. So is that being done? Some of the artists just figure because they put their song on radio that they have to get money, but you have to get into the system.
It's probably important now to let some of these creatives know that the legal entity, the collection agency for Dominica is called ECHO.
Echo.
Am I right?
Yes.
How lucrative, Bob? I know you have been an integral part of ECHO, an executive member, that sort of thing. Have any artists from Dominica received any
Yes.
benefits from ECHO?
Yes, I have been charged with the responsibility for distributing royalties, like their checks to certain artists. I myself have received already. And I will admit that right now there is a bit of an issue. There's a clog somewhere because of some administrative issues and so on that that ECHO is working on. But before that, people have received their royalties and so on. It's been a while since because of that last issue that they're trying
Now,
to deal with.
for what streams or for what sources? Radio, I mean, playing in
Mostly-
in vehicles.
Mostly radio. No,
Mostly
no.
radio.
You can't. You won't
mostly
get
radio.
anything from playing in vehicle because a
No,
vehicle
I'm
is
talking
not-
about the buses.
The bosses.
No, they're not registered at all. They don't pay anything.
Because that's where your music is being played the most.
Yeah, they don't pay anything. So people really hearing their music banging all about the place. But these guys, there's a disconnect between these businesses because a bus is a business, you know.
Yes, exactly.
You know, there's a disconnect between them and the societies that collect.
Mhm. In terms of businesses around, let's deal with Dominica. In terms of businesses around Roseau, around Dominica,
Little
because there's
PI,
Portsmouth, Marigot, Granby, who play Dominican music. What happens?
The people who the businesses who are registered would be some of the hotels, the major supermarkets, and so on. But beyond that, nothing else to talk about, not really. And you have the radio stations like DBS Radio, and Kyrie FM, if I'm allowed to call their name on your station. But
No, we're dealing with a general issue.
the
They are registered.
reality of
They are
things,
registered.
Yes.
But do
They're
they
not registered, but they have acquired licenses. As to whether these licenses are up to date right now, the agent would have to talk about that.
Okay.
When he gets the chance.
Okay. Let us just break it down a little. The radio station obtain a license.
Yes,
Now,
from Echo.
from ECHO
Hmm.
to be able to play songs
Right.
of their members.
Right.
Okay, the data are the data from the various radio stations coming into ECHO as to the amount of
Yes.
plays
Yes.
they play various songs.
Yes, there's a very sophisticated computerized system that captures. It monitors the radio station.
Okay, great.
And it can give you a very detail as to what song, when it was played, what time, who it belongs to, because every song has what you call its own DNA. Every
Okay,
song has
great.
its own code. No matter where it's played, no other song has that code.
You may, without tripping you may notice it if in your car.
Yeah.
Yes,
When
yes,
you're
yes,
listening
yes.
to the radio, you'll
Yeah.
see it's Mighty Sparrow and
Yes,
whatever.
yes.
Yes.
That same information is sent
Goes directly to
the-
ECHO, but you don't have that connection with the businesses.
No, the businesses pay based on the size of their space. So it's a kind of a negotiable. Well, not necessarily negotiable because ECHO has rates as to the society has rates as to the size of the thing. You know. So if you, let's say for instance you have a 4x4 and a 4x4 is $5. But it's a percentage of your income for some places, some events and so on.
Yeah, let us deal with events because this one is a ticklish one. Let's say events. Some of your Calypsonians in the Calypso season are registered. And you have a show. Let's say the finals, the grand finals, and some of the finalists are registered. What happens?
Well, let us address the finalist registered thing there first, right? Because it's the owner of the song who collects royalties.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here's an example sitting next to me. Jackson is the writer.
I have gotten a couple of royalties as a result
Right.
of that.
Okay, great.
So the
Exactly.
Calypso.
I just want us to explain so
the
people can
Calypsonian
understand.
singing on the stage doesn't really get anything from that.
Unless
he's
if
not
he is the
song.
owner of the
Yes.
song, right?
Right. So in the case of the writer, and then there's another thing we have to pay attention to: who is the owner of the recording?
Of the song.
Yeah, you know, the recording. Whoever paid the studio to have the recording done. So they have on their split sheet. There's something called the split sheet. Some goes to the
Writer.
the writer, the composer. Then there's space for the publisher, as God knows will eventually come to, and then the performer. But
breakdown. What I want is a breakdown of the various categories. And
I'm getting a very important call there, important to us.
Yes.
And what he wants is the telephone number to call. And he's very, very important a person to that conversation.
1-800-327 local 448-3281. 1-800-327
1-800-327
or 448-3281
448-3281
or 448-3279.
448-3279.
Yes.
That 1-800-327 is missing a number. Eh? 1-800-327.
No, that's it.
That's it.
Yes,
and then if the person is calling from overseas is 3.
No, it's
no, overseas.
Or local.
But overseas people need to know, so announce it anyway.
Okay, overseas is 305
305
432
432
9744.
9744.
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Murray,
perfect.
I'm certain you have caught one of those numbers, so please you can call now.
Because a lot of the normal person and even the ordinary artists do not know.
I know.
And for them, their moment of fame is to hear the songs played.
But the reason why they don't know is because they don't listen, and because even Murray himself has had so many workshops, he's invited people. Because sometimes 5 people showing up, so you wouldn't know if you don't come.
Just let me finish the point a while. The reason why I say their moment of fame, especially let's deal with Calypso. For instance, Calypso. For the normal, with the ordinary Calypsonian, he wants to hear his song played. Because that will give him an impetus to possibly go to the next round.
Of course.
And for him, is airplay in it.
Yeah.
Is as far as he's concerned, he would even make noise for him to get airplay.
Yeah.
So he's not concerned about anything else except airplay.
Yeah, that is his royalties.
Most important thing is the competition. Let's see if we have Mr. Mark Murray on the line. Good evening to you, Mark. Good evening to you. How are you, sir? Hello, good evening, Creole Heartbeat.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, Mark. Whatever you have in the background is a little too loud. I'm not sure if you could just low it down a little.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, we hear you loud and clear. How are you, sir?
All right.
I'm not sure if you were following the discussion where we know that you are the expert in Dominica and you can possibly add and clarify where we are.
Yeah. I was trying to put some things right there that were going off track.
Okay, great. So let us clarify it. You're free. But whatever is in the background, Mark, I'm not sure if it's your television. Just kind of lower it down because we're getting a feedback.
Okay, all right, okay.
And whenever you're ready, you could just clarify for us. You are the expert.
Okay,
you are Mr.
He's the
Cook,
agent. He's the agent for Echo.
Echo, yes. Yes, Mark. Go ahead.
Right. Okay. Good.
Oh, I know what.
Okay.
Mark, you're listening to yourself on your
Listen
TV
to
or
yourself.
something.
Put it off.
Put off your TV. Put off your television. Or your radio.
Now?
We're hearing you all the time, but we can hear you again on your thing.
On whatever device.
So, okay.
We hear you clear now.
Hold on. Let me start at the beginning.
Yes, go ahead.
I assume everybody hearing me.
Yes, we hear you loud and clear.
The way this thing works with Echo, but Bob is talking there. Okay?
Yes.
Hello?
We hearing you, Mark.
Okay.
Just whatever you just talk through the phone and forget about the television or the
right.
Yes.
Yes, okay. I was saying this is how the thing works. If you write songs, you become a member of a copyright collecting society. There are like 200 of them in the world. And you can join anyone your mind tell you. ECHO is the one that operates in the OECS. It collects money for all the societies everywhere in the world, in the OECS. So the first thing you must do is join a society. You then give the society the exclusive right to collect monies for you when your music is played in public, which means radio station, TV station, banks, businesses, barber shops, on cable TV, etc. Yes, the society will collect the money, and as Bob was saying, particularly with electronic media, we collect the information electronically, automatically. So we know which songs were played. In the terms of radio stations, we charge a percentage of their revenue, which is 2.5% of what money they made for the year. So therefore, each radio station doesn't pay you the same amount of money because each radio station doesn't make the same amount of money. The radio stations in the OECS, for example, all together, if all of them were playing, would pay less than the World Creole Music Festival in the 3 nights of their event. Partly because the WCMF makes vastly more money in 3 nights than most radio stations make in a whole year. Yes, and they play a whole much more music on the radio than WCMF. Therefore, the value of your song in the WCMF may be 10 or 20 times what it is on PBS radio. Yes?
Yes,
and if
yes.
your song gets played abroad, like I know some people had their songs played in Japan, the Japanese society collects it and sends the money to them in Dominica. So there are some people in Dominica who are members of the French society. We would collect the money for them, and then I know the people here, but the money will be sent to them via France. Would send it to them, send the money to their society in France, which would then send the money back to them in Dominica. If they are members of American society, it will end up being the same thing. I have to tell you that in the Caribbean, Jamaica, Barbados, OECS, Trinidad and Tobago, about 80 to 90% of the money that's paid out to composers and songwriters goes to the United States because we consume a vast amount of American music.
Correct.
So if you like American music, you have to pay Americans for their music.
Correct.
If you like Dominican music, then you will pay Dominican people for their music because you will use it a lot. Yes? That is basically how it works. So the first thing you must do is become a member of a society. However, even after you're a member of a society, the society doesn't look about every single thing with your music. It basically looks about public performance of your music. To give a license to make an advertisement with your music, you do that yourself with the person who wants to make the ad with your music. And if the person doesn't get the permission from you, you will sue the person for doing that. Michael Henderson sued Astafan and Company some years ago for making an advertisement with a song. She won the case. Yes? She sued them herself. So that's how the business basically works. And Gordon was talking about a publisher. A publisher is a business that works with songwriters. And the job of the publisher is to make the song make as much money as possible. So the publisher will try to get people overseas to record it, probably in a foreign language. For example, Arrow's song Hot, Hot, Hot was recorded by an American fella in the States. Arrow made vastly more money from that recording that the guy made in America with his song than Arrow himself made singing his song and selling his records. And there's also a Spanish version, which is very popular still, that generates money for Arrow when Arrow has passed on, but his estate. Yeah? So that's basically how the music business on the publishing side works. And related to that, there's another side, which is the recording side. The recording, that is artists, people who play on the records, and people who finance recordings. They own those rights. which are different from the rights which the people who write the song own. For example, Gordon Henderson, who is the main songwriter in Exile 1. Therefore, the songs which Gordon has written for in Exile 1 while he was in Exile 1, they all belong to Gordon Henderson. Nobody else in Exile 1 has any share in it unless they were part of the composition. Because there might be 2 or 3 persons who own that song. And they decide what share each person has. Yeah? So the persons who play on a record and the person who own the songs are necessarily the same people. Okay. For example, you mentioned Signal Band, but Signal Band might be singing a song that I wrote.
Yeah.
In which case, I am the writer of the song. I own the song, but Signal Band has made a recording with it. Signal Band has to pay me for every record they make. That's called mechanical reproduction rights. Yeah?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a little more complicated and easier as well. It is easy and complicated at the same time to understand how that works.
But Mark, just a quick question as you're on this there. With the Signal Band has to pay you for each record that they make. Right now, we're not. That's not the case anymore for now. Until CDs come back into play. Like Gordon was saying earlier, you won't find Chubby selling CDs anymore.
Yes.
So now it's about streams, hits.
No.
Mechanical rights
However,
in the streams, you know.
However, okay, let me just explain that. However, when a stream is made, it is considered that a mechanical reproduction and a public performance has taken place.
Right.
So yes, there is
Exactly.
still a mechanical reproduction right that is paid by the streaming company to the songwriter.
Right. I just wanted you to point that out.
Yeah, because it's a reproduction with a machine of the music. And at the same time, the music is transmitted to the listener, so that's a public performance. That's how it's counted. So the payment for a stream has 2 components, a mechanical reproduction component and a public performance component.
Right.
Now, Mark, do promoters pay?
Promoters who put on concerts in Dominica.
Put on concerts, yeah.
Yes.
Do they pay for license?
Yes.
And if they pay for license, what is the price? Or what is the percentage?
It's 5% of their revenue.
It's the same as the World Creole Music Festival. It's 5% for
Of the revenue.
Yeah.
No.
There's an event tomorrow. It's tomorrow or Sunday in the gardens. It's 5% of their revenue as well.
Now, do these performers normally pay for these licenses? And if
we don't bother with performers. We are not into the.
No, I'm talking about promoters. Sorry, promoters.
Well, some of them do, and those who don't, we sue them. We have a lawsuit against a fella who put on an event in the gardens last carnival. Not this one just gone there, the year before, 2004, against them and the government of Dominica. Because the government of Dominica owns the place of public performance.
Yeah.
So we sue them. They've been sued. Now, I sue plenty people actually. More or less all across the OECS, in Antigua, in St. Lucia, I must have sued about, let me see, nearly 20 different people.
Yeah.
Including cable and wireless when they had started up their cable business.
What about businesses, Mark? Supermarkets, that stuff, entertainment, music is being played there through the television or through their sound system. What happens? What happens in that case? What percentage do they pay, or do they pay a general license?
Well, they pay a general license, but it's based, as Bob was saying, on the size of the venue.
On the venue. How you determine the size?
Let's not say venue. The size of the store.
Of the store. How you determine the size, and how do you determine how much?
Well, we have rates. So we have from this size to that size is X amount per square foot. From on the other size is X amount per square foot, etc. So a store that occupies a larger space will pay a larger fee than a store that has a small space. We also charge banks. It's according to the number of employees in the bank and the size of the space. Yeah, restaurants is according to the number of tables. So there are lots of different tariffs for different uses. And the general principle on which the tariffs are based is that where the music is an essential thing to what you are doing, it's a percentage of the revenue. That's why a concert, for example, cannot take place without music.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole thing. However, a store can sell its goods without any music.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And at the same time, similarly, for example, there are these kinds of events that have a lot of music, but strictly speaking, they don't absolutely need music. For example, a queen pageant more or less always has music.
Yeah.
But theoretically, you could put on your queen pageant with no music.
Yeah.
People would come and walk on the stage, they talk their speech, they do their skit, and so on, without any music playing. So in that case, although music is an important thing, the rate is less than a concert. It's 2.5% in point of fact.
What about
Of a
free? Is there any exemption for free events?
No.
Events with no charges?
No. If it's a free event, we charge you 5% of the cost of putting it on.
Wow. So conventions, political conventions.
Like, yeah. We have a rate for that. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but actually it's not free.
It's not
It's
free.
not a freeness at all. No.
Okay. What is actually free? Carnival?
No carnival on the street is not free at all. That is very, very public performance. Matter of fact, in some situations at your home, it's not free. If the bank manager, for example, of any bank here, has a Christmas party at his home for the bank staff, that is a public performance for which he must get a license. Or she must get a license. Yes. So it's not. It's a little. So a public performance is anywhere the public can be, and the public is considered people who are not part of a domestic circle, which is why a bus, even if the bus driver is the only one in it, is considered a public place because the public can be in it.
I getting deeper now, Mark. Churches.
Churches?
Yes.
Legally, strictly speaking, no.
No.
But the societies in I might say Christian countries basically take the view that we will not charge the
congregation.
The
church.
No, they will not charge the church for playing music in their church service.
Okay.
However, if the church has a fair or a dinner or whatever to raise funds, they have to get a license for that.
Okay.
There actually is, in terms of churches, particularly, might say Protestant churches, there's an organization called the Christian Copyright Licensing Agency, Incorporated. It is based in the United States, which charges churches for displaying lyrics on the big screen for the congregation to sing, and or making copies of hymn books for people to sing in church. There is such an organization that collects money from them for that. We collect money actually for the actual playing of music, but we choose not to charge churches if they use music in their service. It's not that it's the law exempting them, it's a choice the societies make not to charge for that. Yeah.
How do you see AI affecting the whole situation, Mark?
How I see what?
AI.
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence.
Well, our law in Dominica actually anticipated such a thing, that computers would be able to generate copyright protected works themselves. And our law says that the work that is a computer-generated work, the copyright in it belongs to the person who owns the computer. And there's a definition in the law of what is a computer-generated work. In the United States, on the other hand, they take the view that the copyright only belongs to something that a human being created. Therefore, if you create a song with artificial intelligence, but you wrote the lyrics and the computer generated the music, you would have copyright in the lyrics in America. Copyright would exist in the lyrics in America and would belong to the person who wrote the lyrics. But there would be no copyright in the music generated by the computer itself.
Okay.
That's America. That for the time being, that's their ruling and their view. In point of fact, there are hundreds of lawsuits by all kinds of people against these AI companies for using their copyright works, music, books, whatever it is, pictures, etc., to train their models. Because when they use it to train it, they have reproduced it into their computer without permission. So there are a lot of lawsuits for millions upon millions of dollars people are asking for unauthorized use of their copyright works in the United States against these AI companies. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure if
I just want to ask Mark.
yes, Jaco.
Mark. In terms of success rate, in terms of policing that whole situation, I mean, a lot of things sounds very good on the books, but many persons don't even know, cannot relate to anything that they can say, well, okay, my work is protected as such, and I'm likely to sue somebody. Don't you feel that sometimes that people might just figure, well, this whole idea of copyrights and everything, and a certain level of extremities, the places that they go and try and actually get your song copyrighted and sue and so on. Who does that? Who does that? Because we don't really hear it come on the news. We're not aware of any success stories, many of them, yeah.
Let's put it this way. The law in Dominica and, well, at least all the common law countries, which is ex-British colonies, including America, says that when the law is passed in the Gazette, and the Gazette is the official newspaper of the country, everybody knows the law. Okay? Now, in point of fact, everybody doesn't know the law, which is why the profession of lawyer exists. These are people who specialize in knowing the law. So, for whatever it is that you have some legal thing, you usually refer yourself to a lawyer who would guide you as to what you can do, what you can't do.
And that's what I fear in Dominica.
Have an
That's what I fear in Dominica. There are not many lawyers who are knowledgeable, even as yourself, as far as this copyright issue is concerned, and to represent persons, and artists. So that's also a problem.
Well, no, but let me put it so. I don't want to hit anybody, but I'm not a lawyer. I never went to law school for 15 minutes. Okay?
Yeah.
How come I know all this stuff about copyright? I'll tell you how I know that. Because it's Gordon who told me about the existence of SASEM and so on the first time. But in fact, I didn't even remember. But it was in Dominica here. I was still at university, and he had come Dominica on holiday, and we meet up again, and we were driving on the way to Portsmouth. And they explained to me how about that SASEM and so on there. Because I used to buy records all the time, and I read everything.
Right.
And so I used to read this thing in the middle of the record that's saying unauthorized broadcasting and duplication and so on prohibited. But I hear in records playing on the radio all the time. I have one in my hand and I play in it. and nobody not telling me anything. So I was wondering about who's supposed to give this authorization about what? And when he explained it to me, I started to fall up. I said, oh, okay, I see. That is what they mean when they write that on the record. Yeah, so when Ophelia made her first record, Gordon had a book called This Business of Music that was written by, published by Billboard magazine. I tell him, lend it to me. He lent it to me. I read the whole book. Like in 2 days, I gave him back his book. Read the whole thing. And then I get an understanding how music business now functions.
Right.
And then I just keep following up, reading up, and talking to people who I think might know more than me. And that's how I follow up, and I know how the thing works.
So anybody can do that. But
yes.
Let me, Mark, allow me to add in one thing as the Dominica director on the Echo board. I want to say, and please, if anybody doesn't understand that, call because we just gave you all the numbers.
Yeah.
Mark did not create any of this.
Yes.
This is what exists everywhere in the world where culture is a commercial thing. This, all of what Mark just told you, is the reason why Taylor Swift might be in her bed sleeping right now and she's still making money.
Right.
Rihanna might be in bed sleeping now or having a drink somewhere and she's still making money.
Bob Marley is dead.
Bob Marley is dead and his estate is still
his
making
estate.
money. So we didn't create any of this. We are just participating in something that already exists globally.
Right.
I don't want to say more to complicate the point.
And maybe we'll give some history there. The very first copyright law in the world was written in Britain in 1709. Yes,
Bravo.
by the first copyright law, 1709. Dominica has a copyright law since June of 1912.
Wow.
And it remained the same law up till November 2003, when a new law came into effect. So we've had copyright law in Dominica since 1912. So it's not really a new thing.
Because
And
we were a
this
colony of
society is
Britain,
there.
right?
Yes.
Because we were a
We're
colony of Britain, so
yeah.
Britain's laws existed here. Easy to
Yeah.
understand, yeah.
Easy to understand, yes. Mark, we'd like to thank you for your intervention here tonight. I mean, really eloquently, as usual, really gave us some clarity, and let's hope that our listeners really got educated on the subject matter. But we want to thank you, my brother, for what you did for us tonight and really clarified the area that will actually...
Maybe there's just one thing maybe I should clarify there.
Okay.
YouTube, the views that people are talking about of 1 million or how many million on YouTube,
Yeah.
the YouTube version that we see in Dominica have no ads on them, if you notice. And if you ever travel to Guadeloupe or wherever there, but every single video you will go to watch, whatever it is about, whether not have to
An
be
ad
about
comes
music, about anything,
Yes.
bam, it have ads. So YouTube says they have a thing called YouTube Music. YouTube Music is not available in Dominica. That's where you get streaming revenue from. So the YouTube you see that we have here that have million views, no money is paid for that.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Because YouTube said they're not doing business here, therefore they're not paying any money for any views that happened on YouTube itself.
All right.
Kind of complicated.
Yes, extremely. Well, thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you for having my back,
Okay.
Mark.
Okay, pleasant night,
All
and
right.
say hello and hi to Ophelia for us.
Right, okay, good.
Okay, Gordon, I mean, quite a bit. Mark really clarified, and let's hope our listeners and viewers live on DBS Radio really got some clarification on what Mark really disseminated here. And Gordon, once again, we are at that juncture, where we have to continue. We have to continue. It is going to be rough, but we have to continue the education. We have to really use the various platforms to continue to tell. But then, I am still concerned with that level of information. How many of our artists?
That's what I'm saying. That's from the schools. Most of our
How many of
bands-
our artists and our bands
Most of our bands
have
started
that
in schools.
level of knowledge? Is it? And it comes to you, it's up to Gordon, who said music education is so critical, appreciation is so important for a child. Because how are you going to understand that if your focus is on just playing? How are you focused on being able to actually...
The
Yeah, go ahead,
big
Gordon.
story here The big story here, the explanation that Mark gave in detail, is if you own a song, you have to get it registered.
Correct.
And he gave the number of societies across the globe, and one of them is available, is right there in Dominica. It's called Echo.
Okay,
So
let,
you
let,
have written a
there's only a
song.
thought a while, Gordon. There's only a thought a while. Good evening. Oh, okay, with that caller just missed out. Yes, so you register your song. That caller
And-
could
and
call.
to-
call
to add-
Or that's the first thing.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. The second thing, I don't know if we'll have time to go into it, is how do you monetize the song?
Okay,
Because that doesn't mean
the
because
caller
you
is calling
register
back.
a song.
The caller is calling back, Gordon. Let's see if that caller wants to contribute. Good evening to you, Creole Heartbeat.
Hello, good evening, Wadix and the rest of the panel.
Good evening to you, my dear.
Good evening.
Good program,
Good evening.
and thanks for what you all are doing for us.
Thank you very much,
Now,
my
I
dear.
want to ask a little question. Probably to Gordon or whoever can answer. What can, I listen to some music, right, young people? I haven't got any problem with young people music. But to me, they are talking. They're talking, and you're not hearing instruments. When I say instruments, you know what I mean. You're not hearing a guitar, you're not hearing a thing. It's a boom, and they're talking. How can probably Gordon and what is your experience can help the young people to sing, and put your song must have a little meaning, Wadix. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
So
my
I don't know
dear.
how you all can help the young, because to me, they are talking. Not everybody, I'm not, but they are talking. And then another thing, Wadix, you mentioned about dancing, and so the young people now cannot dance for true. How many young people can dance a waltz, Wadix?
Very few. You're going
You're
way back. You're going way back. You're going way back. Very few.
A few years ago, we had something in church. We had a family thing, and single parent had to celebrate the mass. And Shirley came in from Shirley's mother brought him, and he sang Annie Viola. What is that was so nice and refreshing. You understand what I'm saying? But that is what I want to say. I don't know how you all can teach them to sing, because some of them are not singing; they're talking. Good evening.
Thank you very much. I don't try if you want to comment, Gordon or Bob, but we mentioned that earlier.
The thing is, just quickly, it's a personal decision. The artist has to make that decision as to what he wants to do, who is his market, if he wants to sing to people who want to, enjoy, or if he just wants to chant and to the people who enjoy that type of thing. So it's a personal decision. And what I'm concerned about, which I hinted on earlier, is the availability of learning institutions, organizations to teach people those things, to hone their skills and so on in music. I'm beginning to get the feeling like, we're not thinking that is of any importance to us anymore. But arts is very important to any society, any developing society. When you go to the developed world, you see, these countries, you see all these theater and all these different productions and those kind of things. There's a reason why this is such an important thing that is there in those societies, and we cannot walk away or say that it's not important to us. A developed society, you have to develop people, and you have to develop their culture, their understanding of culture and their skills in that particular area.
Okay, thank you very much, Darrell, Bob. But Gordon, we were referring to a song, and you were talking about breaking down what Mark actually spoke about, just kind of generalizing everything. You can continue, and we can move on to the other area. We're trying to go until 9:30.
Yeah, well, Mark gave us, okay, Mark gave us a detailed, and it's not the first time I have heard Mark explain that very same thing many times before on radio,
Yes,
and
myself also.
in other circumstances. When Bob emphasized the fact that Mark didn't invent that thing, I think that should be supported, because some people seem to almost hate Mark
Yes.
for
Yeah, yeah.
collecting
Yes.
money on behalf
Of
of
them.
the owners of songs.
Yes.
And I know of cases where it wouldn't be nice to mention, but where songwriters, Dominican songwriters, almost wanted to fight with Mark because he went to the market, I think, to warn these people that they should pay for them. And Mark, they kept telling Mark, you preventing my song to be popular. And so getting people to
Oh
understand
boy.
that, the artists, getting the general public to understand that. But I don't know if we'll have time to really dive into music publishing, because it is important that if your song is liked or viewed in the millions, you're a songwriter and probably you are a performer as well. And probably because we made allusion to the owner of what the Americans like to refer to as the master, the person who paid to make the recording. You might be the owner of all that, and you might not have either the skill, the finance, or the know-how of doing what the publisher does. And probably Creole Heartbeat should organize, maybe for radio, but a workshop to make our songwriters, particularly the bouillon songwriters, understand they should work with music publishers. Maybe they should learn how to negotiate, because in the old days, a publisher would demand 50%. The argument was, if Bob releases one of the songs that he owns, he might sell 100,000. And then a publisher would come to him and say, okay, I want to sign a publishing contract with you, but you are going to assign, legal word, you are going to give me exclusive right on that particular song, but we have to share what it makes 50-50. Many songwriters and composers don't like this 50-50 thing. But Bob was making $100,000 by himself with 100%. A good publisher would make him get 10 million. So the 50% would be 5 million rather than the 100,000 that he would have made when he had all. This is the stage that bouillon should be getting into now.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I asked the question, do you guys know of any publisher in the bouillon world?
Yeah.
And we didn't seem to find one.
No.
Yeah.
And probably they aren't.
Yeah.
The lady asked a very important question there, and we haven't got a lot of time, but probably we need to be tolerant about different genres and their forms. Some genres like rap is about talk, because you can call it chant or call it whatever, but it's about talk. Bouillon was basically talk.
Yeah.
So that is a method of expression.
Yeah.
And if, as Bob says, that is what the artist can do or wants to do,
Or his
that's okay,
preference.
but that doesn't mean that that particular form of expression represents all our music.
Yeah.
Theodore Adorno said that no art is bad art. Because everything has its market. Everything has its market. There are people who like what the Bouillon guys are doing and stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
But just that they're always crossing over into, they would play on radio stations where people who love music are listening. So that, although I must commend the local stations for keeping the smut out. You know, the harsh lyrics and so on, they have been very good at making sure that those lyrics they're not played. But these guys, they have their market and their people enjoy them, and no art is bad art.
Okay. So that's a controversial with Ian Jackson. But anyway, we're not going to the controversy.
Yes, that,
because Ian Jackson said earlier, music have a level of spiritual.
Yes.
But we're not going to that discussion,
for sure.
That debate.
Yeah.
Whilst no art is bad art, Ian Jackson still thinks.
And it's not new, eh? It's not new.
It's
We
not
have
new,
always
no.
had it.
Yes.
For those people who love blues, we had. I used to hate a hit in blues music called Constipation Blues. Yeah, you can check it on YouTube. A big hit, big blues. And you can imagine the guy singing. I cannot demonstrate it and so on. Constipation Blues.
I must check that out, man.
we used to love country and western music in Dominica in church.
Yeah.
And you have a whole catalog of nasty country and western songs, all kinds of stories, almost like Calypso, where they would be telling stories with smutty and so on.
But
so we've always had that in this
Gordon,
society.
just stick up in before I forget. I'm in a chat group with musicians, and then one of the guys a few weeks ago posted a song, and he said, "Hey, that's the first nasty business." No, that's a song from the 70s. Guess who's the singer?
But it could have been me.
Gordon.
Yeah, because
so I played the song now to see what them fellas talking about. And then it is this one where, you know, there's a lot of expression.
My idol is Sparrow.
Yes.
And
I want to something mid.
This person went to a doctor.
When you specialize,
anyway,
Sparrow didn't specialize. When I was 16 years old, I said that an artist, because whoever you quoted who said that no art is bad art. Yeah. When I was 16 years old, or maybe even younger, I said that an artist has the right to touch any subject that he wants.
That's
how he does it.
It's how.
It's
how.
No, not how he does it. You want to sing smut, you sing smut. You want to speak gospel, you sing gospel. You are not unidimensional. So that is my philosophy. I used to like the lizard song and codfish song of Sparrow, and I knew what he was talking about. But I also used to like Slave because he spoke about the condition of the enslaved African. I used to like Danny's the Man is the Van, where he ridiculed the English
system.
So it's a broad spectrum. But if you specialize only in smut, but all of us, it's true that we're spiritual, but we are 4 men there. We never have little jokes about. I have seen, when I was maybe about 10 years old, I remember seeing a guy observing a woman passing, and he said, "Oh, but this girl has a lot on her chest."
Well, that in itself is craft, Gordon.
That is craft.
And what we're trying to avoid is that, because the way it's going right now, if you're not careful, everybody will be an artist, and we accept it as craft. And that's my fear.
Because I am sure that the song that Bob is referring to, and his guy is calling it nasty business.
The first nasty business
is a song that speaks about a doctor
Yeah.
applying an
An injection.
injection,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
lady was crying in a particular way that
Way.
would suggest
Right.
otherwise.
Yes,
Exactly.
to suggest otherwise. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
It
song.
was
That's the
nothing.
song.
It was nothing raw like
Like
some of
today,
our
like
own.
Right,
today, like
exactly.
today.
Yeah.
Which is
And that's the
and which
difference.
is
That's what I'm trying to avoid.
which is to me, that is why there's a time and place to me
Yeah,
for
everything.
different things. In the space of adults, you can play adult stuff at any time.
Yeah.
But then the way it was done all over the place,
Yeah.
in bars and buses, children going to school.
Yes,
it
yes,
was-
yes, yes,
You
yes.
know, I mean, I think
And-
We have to call that out.
and
We have to call that out.
specializing. If our society specializes in that,
And then
because that's
I was
another
I was
argument.
more concerned too, because I am a man that believe in product control. I even wondered if there was a bureau of standards. I mean, if you producing anything, and I mean we have produced some of the best music in the Caribbean, it's no doubt. And then here is it. I hearing from the Jamaican Prime Minister that he was kind of crying on the lyrical
Yes.
content of some of his songs. And then, whilst he's crying on the lyrical content of some of his artists in Jamaica, we are accepting the same stuff and making excuses. So I was kind of
Highlighting
concerned
it.
about that. That is what I was really concerned about, because when you hear, well, Dominica is now becoming the headquarters of that level, when we were the best in, went to the four corners of the globe with a different genre.
Yeah.
We have some of the finest.
We can also ask a question, and probably I can also pose that to Gordon, because I have my own views. Why do we create music? Do we create music to make money? What is the prime purpose of creating music and creating entertainment?
There are multiple reasons.
But
What is the prime?
that's
What
a
is the
very
prime
important
reason why do
question,
we?
you know. A few years ago, when the expression cultural industries was coined and accepted, there were some people who were resolutely opposed to the idea of cultural industries, because they felt that culture
Could be
was so
industry.
sacrosanct that it should not be
Sold.
industrialized.
Okay.
So the question that you're asking, why do we ask? I asked myself that music. I started creating music at a very early age because it was a passion, and you never know why you are passionate about anything. You don't know why you're passionate about sports, art. So it began as a passion. And then I started creating music so I could get a few girls. I noticed it would attract girls.
Right.
That was the age.
Right.
Yeah.
And in a third phase, I realized that you have to maintain the passion if you want to maintain any status in the industry, because by that time I went into the industry. So I create music for the passion and with the hope that I can monetize it, industrialize it. I will just give a little quick story with regards to Fitzroy Williams. When we wrote the song Fresh, the way that we composed that song is Vivian Fitzroy and myself. We worked on the music part. And then I go home, and that's the usual thing. I have to think of the melody and the lyrics and the arrangements of where the background vocals will come and so on. So which means they will know nothing about that. They'll sit in the studio and listen to me. First of all, direct the background vocals. That's what you should do. And let me just add, because it's important, we had Edith Leffel who is now deceased, and Jocelyn Beroa of Kassav. These are the two doing the background vocals.
On the original Fresh.
Yes.
Yeah, on the original.
So, question: were you thinking money at that time, or were you thinking of production?
Passion and money.
Okay. All right.
I cannot tell you in what dosage. I can tell you,
You don't do so,
but
okay.
I will tell you why I brought up
Yeah.
Fitzroy.
Uh-huh.
So we did the background vocals, and Fitzroy and Vivian, they're sitting in the studio. They don't seem to be too impressed yet. Then I came with the vocals, so they heard the melody and the lyrics for the first time. And when I was through singing it, I saw Fitzroy in tears. And he said, I don't care even if that becomes a hit or not. I am in that 100%. And that was enough pay for me.
All right.
But I will say something. The song didn't work for about 2 years.
Oh, really?
It was in the heyday of Zouk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I believed in the song, and I came to Dominica and did a music video 2 years after the release, because it was released in the time of vinyl.
Yeah.
Right, right.
There were no CDs.
Yeah.
I did a music video. By that time, the CDs came out.
Yeah.
And when people all over the world started to see, I hope there was no DDA to help at the time, but they started to see that Dominica had navigable rivers like Indian River and so on. And that went all over the place, and Fresh became a hit. So the same hit that we had recognized and Fitzroy in tears
became a hit 2 years after.
2 years later.
Materialized, yes.
And 30 years after, I am still solicited. If they ask me to come and sing a song, they're not interested in Calypso and all that.
It's Fresh.
They're interested in Fresh. 30 years after.
Yes.
So this probably answers your question. What are the driving forces behind creating music? For me,
Passion.
But other people might have other.
Passion. I mean, this is so critical. Can you just quickly kind of some strategies, marketing strategies, Gordon? I mean, I know it's getting late, but no, marketing strategy is very critical. Well, because one of our biggest, to my mind, deficiencies in entertainment is marketing strategies, getting the music out there, getting the people to assimilate, to assume, to consume. Sorry, the music.
Well, Gordon, how do we get publishers involved in our music? That helps to answer Wadix's question.
They are all there. Because there are many times that guys would send me music and tell me what do I think of it. And I always think most of the times it's excellent music. So I tell them, but you need a publisher. Because today most guys have their home studios and they can produce great music by themselves. They don't perform it. They don't do any merchandising. They get a publisher. And one of the things that a publisher might do, as Mark illustrated with Arrow, is they might find someone who is more marketable, more known, more bankable than you to perform your song, and you can spend whole day in your swimming pool every day and make much more money than you would have made performing it yourself. So just present your catalog, make your little catalog, and present it to music publishers, because or you go on Google and you find all the big publishers, present your songs, and they will sign with you. But to return to
let's just take this call, Gordon. Let's just take this call. Good evening to you, Creole Heartbeat, for Gordon Henderson, Daryl, Bob, and Ian Jackson. Good evening to you.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Very well, and you?
Stein, the slime of the year. Happy 45th.
Are you going to?
Are you there, Stein?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I had a lovely discussion with Father Thomas, who is celebrating his birthday today, and he gave the rights to you 45 years ago.
Boy, let me tell you something now. When I hear Father Thomas celebrating his birthday, I hear that on the radio this morning. I get up and I call you and I say, Jean, you know today is Father Thomas' birthday and today is our 44th wedding anniversary, and it was Father Thomas who married us. So Father Thomas married us on his birthday. I called the bishop's house. You know me already with myself going in the route. I called the bishop's house. I said, let me tell you, give me a number for Father Thomas. I find Father Thomas in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And the boy tell me he there, and that's good news. He there trying to fix up his music.
Yes.
Together we are Christ.
Yes.
So he trying to pull all that music together to see if he can pull some copyright and okay, royalties and all that. Okay. But beautiful stuff. It was just one of those wonderful coincidences, and it is sort of almost surreal to be blessed by the priest who married you 44 years later again.
But Stein,
what I called to say was just to add a quick touch regarding passion, just to add a touch regarding passion from an artist like, and not even from music or from writing, but from a painting, a person like Euletian. He used to say certain things to me that are instructive. He would say things like, I entered his studio once and I would see the painting covered. And I asked him, it was daytime, why are you covering the painting? He said, well, Stein, I don't know, it's something among artists. When you're doing a piece of work, you do not let people see it until it is done. Now, it's a very interesting sacredness about that. The second thing was he told me he used to paint to make money. Every time he paint, he said, that one's selling for 350, that one's selling for 500, that one's selling for 65. You know, like one flamboyant tree, like a lady house, something like that. And the boy discovered he painting to sell. And he said he started to get frustrated because he realized he ain't selling. So one of those days he just said, Chupul, I go and just paint. He told me that life for the love of painting. Yeah. And he said he just started to paint all what he felt he wanted to paint. It was costing him a bit because he had to buy all his material. But he just painted to his heart's content. And lo and behold, he started to sell a painting for 1,000 here, another one for 500 there, another one for... And he said that is what transformed his life completely. I just thought I'd share that from a painter's point of view, artists, universal movement. Take care of all yourselves, gentlemen. Great contribution, great discussion.
Happy anniversary, my brother.
Yes. And I just like what Stein just said there, because basically I did a book. I don't know if you did that Wadix because we went around school at the same time, no different schools, but remember that book called Language for Living? I don't remember that English book.
Of course.
And there was an article in that book which spoke about the artist versus the entertainer. And that's why I posed that question to Gordon. And while he mentioned about what Earl Etienne said about the passion and how he just began to paint. Because you see, it's what's in us that really comes out. So if you, as an artist, if you are that type of person, that's the difference between Bob Marley, let's say for instance, and Halo Man. Bob Marley will last until Halo Man will last for a period of time. That is why you find that when you find nasty business will last for a short time. Because it cannot live long. So what comes out of you is pure and true. And if money becomes secondary, you will make money. Anytime you seek money, you will make less. And that's the point I'm trying to raise.
And typical of what happened with Earl just painted, and eventually the money started to come.
True, yeah.
Guys, we have to wind down.
People are still winding down now, Jordan.
But once again,
That is a nasty business right there. Wind down.
Wind down. No, man, not a nasty business, man.
No.
Why? It is good to wine.
Yes, of course.
It has so many songs about
Well,
wine.
that's a craft.
But
That's a craft.
there are so many songs about wine.
Wine, right.
In Calypso.
It's a mask. It's a mask. It's a mask.
Joey Lloyd used wine
Yes.
in a Calypso, a different
Right.
type of wine. It was the
Pastor wine.
pastors.
Yes.
The pastors wine.
Yeah.
But guys, we have to wind down. Once again, Gordon, very, very interesting discussion. It can go on and on and on, and I believe we have to continue, these forums off and on to make sure that we keep our people educated, edified. I think we have that responsibility because we are seeing the direction that our young people are going, and we must at least stamp our authority on guiding them through this turbulent time. It is very difficult and challenging times, my brother. When you speak to young people those days, they don't read, they don't listen to radio, they don't listen to news. It is something else. I mean, I spoke to people and they keep telling me they haven't listened to radio for years.
Yes.
This is what's going on.
Definitely.
They don't listen to news. They don't watch news on social media. They don't watch news on television. They only go to what is that account business the movie stuff.
YouTube?
No, man, there's a movie.
Netflix.
Yes.
Netflix. Oh.
That is what they're interested in. So it is sad that we don't read anymore. We don't educate ourselves more, and as a result, yes, it is alarming. It is alarming, guys, and this is what we are faced with. So when we see we are surrounded by several of the so-called CO, it's because that is the order of the day. But then in between, we can come up with these little sessions where we can try our best to see how we can squeeze in the information. It was good hearing from Stein and bring in a different twist. Marie as usual. And we must do this.
Well, gentlemen, from this session we have here, I'd like to suggest to Gordon and yourself that probably we should do something on social media where we invite the musicians and
of course
the singers right now and speak to them in that manner. But I'm not sure, as they don't listen to radio, I'm not sure how many people we have met tonight.
Like Gordon said, it's a big weekend. It's a big weekend. It's
yeah.
Pentecost weekend, and we know activities all over. But like Gordon said, we should organize a forum where we should invite.
And
so we could do it both. Let's say get the radio to be live at whatever area we decide, and then
inform them before.
No, I mean it's organized. It's something like a workshop.
Yes,
technically like a workshop. Possibly go UE or one of those places where we can come together and have it live also on social media, so that we can reach whoever and tap whoever. And those days you can, have facilitators from all over the world, and that's the beautiful thing now.
Right.
But I believe it is important, because we are seeing the fruits of what's taking place, and if we don't try to interject, our people may be going further and further and further away, and the pestilence of darkness seems to be really infiltrating. Gone are the days when our values were on a particular level, our morality has gone down. People seem to feel they just want to call. And your song now, Internet Children, is so much more prevalent now.
Yes, than
Jacko.
before. I've been told that's my best song. Some people tell me.
And no, let me tell you why. Because how long ago you penned the song?
Boy, it's like it's over 10 years for sure.
Over 10 years, but then so relevant now. Because a lot of suicides. Let me tell you, watching newspaper, even 10 homicides already in half of the year. I've been understand about 6 suicides already.
Yeah.
Wow, we didn't, apart from this, when last you heard of a hanging? Something is happening. Somewhere along the line, our people want things now. And when they can't get it now, they enter into some depression. Anxiety kicks in, and they just cannot handle whatever it is. And school children, young people, something is happening, and if we don't try and curb it, we cannot continue to get them drunk and believe that we are solving the issue. I know it is tough and hard for somebody like me to say it, but I must say it. We cannot continue to get them drunk and intoxicated and believe the issue is going to solve. So I believe that we should continue these forums, and I'm going to take on the responsibility to see how we can put this together. We can have the Calypso Association. I'm not sure if the music amp is still available and functioning, but we can do something. We can start it with us. We can start it with us. You're reaching out. Bob reach out to the Calypsonians. We reach out to the Bouillon artists and the other artists around, and see how we can get something working. I know Mikel tried something recently. I'm not sure how successful it was, but there is a need. There is a need, and the trends are coming in fast and furious that we have to get ourselves to Kua. And then we need edifying music.
Yeah.
We need a dose of edifying music. It cannot be siwo.
Right.
Ras Shorty say one of his biggest regrets is at some point in time in his life he strayed. And when you make a song, it is your song, and
For
it
life.
is recorded for life. And then who knows what your great grandchildren will think about you when that was what your intention was, to do whatever you want to do with this world or with that particular part of the anatomy of that particular woman. That sound is registered for the rest of your life and other people's lives. So I believe that amongst all of this, we need to continue the education process.
Yes.
And the schools must be tapped in. We may have to see how we can take a team to the various schools. Jaco, we can maybe start it for our alma mater. Incidentally, all four of us are from St. Mary's Academy. Oh no, Jaco is from grammar school.
Yes.
Jaco is from grammar school. Although he never took me on in the sprints. He teaches at the St. Mary's Academy. But guys, final words from you. Final word. We'll leave the final words for Gordon.
Gordon, yeah.
But then we'll start with Jaco, then Bob, and then Gordon, and then we'll call it off.
Yeah, well, tonight again, so when you hear 2 hours, you always think it's a long period of time. But when you have a good discussion like this, the time flies so quickly, and we're half past, the hour going up to 10 o'clock. And I just want to say, I have learned tonight again from Gordon, especially in the copyrights issue section. Although I've heard it many times, but when you hear it every time over and over, certain things becomes fresh to you. My intervention was very good. I just trust many musicians would listen. And as Madik said, that we really have a morality issue in terms of our decadence of society. And most of it, and a great part of it, is because we have developed a siwo culture and we are listening to the wrong things. So they are part of our psyche. I mean, the other day I was just passing at you and I heard a guy playing some music in the bus, man, and I couldn't believe it. And there was a little child, she was around 3 or 4 years old, whining down and stroking down. So I'm saying, I said, my brother, tone that, and you're by you will stand up, I said, tone it down, man. Well, and Mother P just get a lot of blows, eh? The mountain Mother P tell me for that. So there's something wrong. And the music can be an element because politicians and the different people, organizations know how to get musicians together when they want the crowd to follow them. So the same way, if you can get the crowd to follow them for certain things, we supposed to be as writers and musicians and artists and so on, recognizing there's a problem existing, we should be able to get our music to channel us in a different direction. I think that will be down to the society and our mentality, our approaches, the depression we face in society. I think there's going to be a big change in Dominica if we really try and curb our music to be more palatable and more pleasing.
Okay, thank you very much, Daryl Bob.
Yeah,
King Bob.
Very briefly, I remember someone saying to me when I was growing up, you are what you eat.
I agree.
And now I realize you are also what you listen to.
Yes.
You are what you listen to.
Consume.
And the indicators are there. We are seeing what is happening in our societies. What you mentioned it a while ago, there are more murders and suicides and so on. And I think the quality of content that we consume on a daily basis, every minute, has something to do with that. If there's a psychologist out there who thinks I am wrong, please contact me and let me know that I am wrong. I said something that I am wrong about. But I will say it until you get to me. What we are consuming in this country, in terms of the audio especially, is having an effect on our youth. And we have to try to fix that. And the last thing I'd like to say, Gordon, I really hope that we get the chance to go into the monetizing of the music, because that is something we didn't really get a chance to zero in on very strongly. So I'm looking forward to that. And on Wadix, I leave it up to you, and let us know whichever way we can to promote and to get this show to happen again, or continue happen until we are satisfied that we have made an impact in our society.
Dr. Wallace said this morning, a child is a product of their socialization. A child is a product of their socialization.
Yeah.
Think deep
Your
of
environment.
it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we take this thing for granted. We just take this thing for granted that you continue to feed this child with all this sort of, negativity and expect as a sponge this child continue to consume this daily, and you expect at some point in time they will just change. Just think of a plant. Whatever you do to a plant, you will eventually see what it will become. And we take this thing for granted. This is real lives that we're affecting, and I really do hope that we can pick up ourselves and get some level of sanity. Final words are yours, Godfather.
Well, thank you. I must thank you and Creole Heartbeat. Did I say Creole? Creole Heartbeat. Forgive me, I speak more French than English. So Creole Heartbeat for doing this. I think that's an excellent team,
Yeah.
Dada, Bob,
Yeah.
Ian,
Yes.
you, me
Yes.
together.
Yes, man.
5 of us.
Yes.
That has been great conversation.
Yes.
We should pursue it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in that format, as you said, in workshops and other things, and monetize it.
Absolutely.
And yes, Bob, I agree. We should work into exploring that great niche market, because fellas may find it strange that I always keep speaking about Creole this, Creole that. But many people don't even realize, Dominicans, that we have an opportunity of being a bilingual society. But we kind of turning our backs to that. Many people don't realize that Creole is more widely spoken than English in CARICOM.
Yeah.
By far.
Yeah.
I mean, because when you include Haiti
That's
alone,
it. That's it.
that's it.
That's it, yeah.
That's it. That's
You
it.
know?
Yeah.
And as a niche market, the Creole niche market, and when I'm speaking with probably with a little hint of passion, because it is unusual that after 55 years in the business, that my telephone still rings.
Yes. In demand.
Somebody should have occupied that space. It goes across Africa.
Yes.
It goes across what I call the Creole world. The Creole world is the Creole niche market is more important and significant in terms of money, because everybody's just talking about money, than the soca market. It's true that Trinidad has a large population in their diaspora in North America, so when they can always use Madison Square Garden or wherever, whereas we don't even and that is what Bob was leading into. We do not have a promoter, to promote. Some of our bouillon guys have to be under the umbrella of soca.
Yeah.
And the promoters are still, I saw them when Simsy, the late
Timothy.
Timothy.
When he was the first one who brought Exile One to the United States, started in New York City. And at the time, he had the intelligence to work with the Haitians, because Calypso was big in the Haitian community in Haiti and in their diaspora. As time went on, this kind of quality shows that went on in BAM, the Brooklyn Academy of Music, and these kinds of places, went to people's backyards and that kind of thing. And for 50 years, I've seen that thing dwindle. So if we really have to change this thing into an industry, a real industry, then we have work to do. But this has been a very good start. Thanks a lot for these 3 episodes. Thanks a lot, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. And I really want to thank the management of DBS Radio, Ivona, John Baptist, for giving us this special program here this evening. Also, King Curtis Matthew, DBS Radio, for allowing us to have this discussion. Normally, it would be a night of playing Creole music, but then I think that this course meant so much, and I am so happy that we have the advent of listening to this particular program again. And I'm so happy that we can go back and listen to our various programs and take out areas. And I am really excited about putting, this fabulous 5 together. Let us continue the education thrust. Let us see, Jacko, we can use St. Mary's Academy as the first school to actually see how we can nurture. It can be, whilst we're doing so many other things, we can use. We have done it before. Myself, Gordon has been to the St. Mary's Academy.
Yes.
Gossi and Jeff, all these guys have been to the academy. So we can do it again, and possibly add some other people to our contingent and see how we can touch the heart and soul of some of our young people and see how we can mitigate what's taking place and allow our country to be one of more balance. In terms of what we're thriving for, I think we are dwindling in terms of spirituality. We are dwindling in terms of morality. We continue to be focused on a lots of, let's say, things that are not beneficial for us. I think we have been taking some backward steps in certain areas of our life. Yes, the skyscrapers and the buildings are important, but then the people, the resource, the main resource, their mentality, their well-being, their health, their morality is also very important. And we have a responsibility to take care of our children and teach them in the way they should go, so that when they are old enough, they should not depart from it. Many thanks, guys, and may God bless you. Pleasant Pentecost weekend, and have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend. Jehovah, Yahweh bless every time.
Just the truth of Calypso music. Tell the truth.
Bye.
Tell the truth of Calypso music. Approchez, chers amis. Avancez et prêtez l'oreille. Calypso music. Tell the truth. C'est l'homme sympathique à dire. Remettez pas Dieu la terre. Calypso music. Tell the truth. Africain esclavisé, Coréen enchaîné, qu'acclamer la liberté. Calypso music. Moment dit la vérité. À la colonie française, chantez, chantez. Whoa. Calypso is yours, my friend. Calypso is mine. Calypso is Caribbean. Sing it. Calypso is yours. Yours. Calypso is mine. Mine. Calypso is Caribbean. In English we say Calypso. En Creole, nous a dit Calypso. You say we want Caribbean, despite the failed federation. What a massive contradiction. Sapabo, down and right. We never hear it at all. Calypso began en Creole. The story is never told. Sapabo, down and right. At the time Trinidad was Spanish, hablaban español. Take a bomb,